going to
It's
start.
going to be a little messy because
It
we
might-
can't click the arrow to get right to the attachment. We're going to have to go to the bottom to get to the
Right.
packet.
You
So
folks
you'll
have to be a little patient with
patient
us
with
because
us here.
we're not on, we can do it. But anyway, welcome to Improvement and Services Committee for November 29th. We'll take roll call. Alder Steuer, I'm here. Alder Weary.
Here.
Alder Eck.
Here.
Alder Campbell.
Here.
We're all here. So let's get to it here. Present, okay, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Actually, I was asking, we have item 6. I'm just wondering if we should move that up or not.
Oh, I see what you mean.
7,
We're number 7.
yeah.
Well, is there
Number 7.
anybody, I think maybe asking
Well,
if
I'm
there's
just-
anybody here to speak on something other than,
Is there
You know-
anybody here to speak on anything other than item number 7?
Other than the
Presentation.
clean energy plan.
Is there
Or
anybody
everyone
else
here
for
the
anything
clean
else?
energy plan?
Because otherwise, nobody else is here for
are
anything
you
else?
shaking your head, sir?
Oh,
I'm here for the clean energy plan.
okay.
Okay. Anybody else
So
here
yes.
for anything
Why
else?
don't we just-
Why don't we move
If we
number,
take 7 up to the top of
Yes.
the agenda.
move 7 up
Okay.
right after the presentation?
Because everybody's got lives, right?
But we'll-
We do too, by the way. All right, so who made that motion?
I
Alder
I
Eck.
will, yep.
Move 7 to
I'll
1.
take it from there.
Seconded by Alder Weary. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, we have a presentation, correct?
Minutes.
Presentation of the
Number 2,
clean
second.
energy,
Minutes from the last meeting.
Yeah, the minutes. We
Oh.
gotta approve the minutes.
oh, I'm sorry. I need an approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Eck, do we have a
Second.
second? Second by Campbell, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed?
We have the presentation, but then it's also on the agenda, so it's like,
Well, right,
Well, the presentation is informational, and then there's an action item. on
yeah,
the
so
agenda.
this, our action item has been moved to after that,
Correct.
correct? Okay, just to confirm.
okay. And anything that is stated today will be going to city council next week, Tuesday at 6 o'clock in the room next door. So this is our committee, we will talk about it, and then that'll be voted on finally by council next week. All right, presentation, E, presentation of the Clean Energy Green Bay Plan by the city's consultant Slipstream. So, come on forward, introduce yourself again.
Great. I'm Maddie. I am the consultant from Slipstream, and thanks for having me here today to present on the plan. Trying to make sure the plan is up before I start.
Yeah,
We're having
Otherwise you have to
issues.
do it from
No
memory.
problem, no
You have to
problem.
do-
I'm patient.
I've seen it once already.
Yeah. Okay, great. So like I said, I'm Maddie. I work for Slipstream. We're a nonprofit organization that has the mission of accelerating climate solutions, and really excited to be here today to present the Clean Energy Green Bay plan that we worked with on city staff, Sustainability Commission, Water Utility, Green Bay Metro, and got a lot of community feedback on over the last several months, or yeah, almost a year. We can go on to the next slide. So today what I want to talk about is introduction, objectives, baseline data and community engagement, interim targets and estimated reductions, the overview of the recommendations, and then any questions that you will have. Okay, so jumping into an overview of our planning process and what we've been doing over the last year. So as a little bit of background for everyone, this project was funded from the Office of Energy Innovation. We received a grant as the City of Green Bay Water Utility, Green Bay Metro Transit, and Slipstream to work on this planning process together. So we were awarded the grant and started in September of 2022 and have been working over the last year doing the following things. So we started by inventorying community-wide carbon emissions to understand what the baseline is so we can identify opportunities and understand where the City of Green Bay sits now. We also engaged in community engagement via both a public survey process and an open house. We identified recommended actions across 6 different focus areas, and then we developed interim targets for 2030 to set some initial goals towards the City of Green Bay's goal of carbon neutrality by 2050, as well as 100% clean energy by 2050. So this shows the 2018 baseline carbon emissions profile. So what you can see here is for 2018 community-wide, so for the entire city, the carbon emissions. So in the pie chart, you see that the primary drivers are buildings. Commercial and industrial buildings and residential buildings make up 87% of all carbon emissions. This is related to the fact that there's a lot of factories. It's an industrial city of Green Bay. And then also we see that there is a high carbon emissions intensity, which means for every unit of electricity produced, there's a high amount of carbon produced right now from the grid overall that serves the city of Green Bay. Next slide. So in addition to kind of setting that baseline of what carbon emissions are now, we also engaged the community to understand what priorities were there and what viewpoints are there. So we did an online survey and an open house. We had 650 residential responses to that online survey. That is considered statistically significant for the city of Green Bay. We had 24 business responses to the online survey, 50-ish attendees at the open house, and we got 70 comments on our draft recommendations that we shared at that open house. The materials were also available in Spanish and Hmong, as well as interpreters available at the open house. The pie chart shows some general perceptions of the city of Green Bay's goals, which, like I mentioned, is carbon neutrality and 100% clean energy by 2050. And you can see there that most people think that it is either just right or even could be more ambitious, with a smaller percent thinking that it's too ambitious or far too ambitious. So we set that baseline, we developed all these recommendations, got community feedback on them, and then we also developed these interim targets to set kind of interim points that the city can get to by 2030 instead of looking all the way ahead to 2050. So you can see here we split those across buildings, clean electricity, and transportation. So you can also see that these are both for municipal operations and for community-wide. The municipal operations are highlighted to make sure that the city is leading the way and demonstrating that these things are possible. So for buildings, you see both reducing energy use and then also transitioning fossil fuel energy use to electricity. For clean electricity, you see transitioning to 65 or 60% of community-wide electricity to carbon-free sources by 2030. I just want to note that this matches the goals that WPS currently has. So a lot of this will be driven by their transition on the grid to more renewable sources as well as nuclear. And then lastly, we see transportation, a 15% reduction by 2030 in overall transportation emissions. So by setting those interim targets, we also can estimate what the carbon reductions would be by 2030. So here you see the 2018 emissions baseline, and then you see the three different sectors, clean electricity, buildings, and transportation, and what we would end up at in 2030. You can see clean electricity is a big segment of that, and that's just related to the fact that electricity right now is a big contributor to overall city emissions. Okay, so we have those targets, and now we have to say, how do we actually get to those targets? So now we move into the recommended actions. So starting with buildings, this slide looks first just at municipal buildings. Again, this is really to make sure that the city is leading the way with its own operations, and then using those lessons learned and giving those to the community so that the community can do similar things. So you can see here prioritizing energy efficiency upgrades, installing heat pumps in city buildings, and then the last two are really about developing some internal policies that can also be resources for the community, such as operational and purchasing policies and high performance building policies. So in addition to those municipal goals that can be shared with the community, there's also some community-specific goals. One of them is to encourage sustainable construction through city funding. Right now, the city cannot actually mandate higher energy efficiency for buildings, and so this is a way to encourage it without mandating it. The second one is to develop a benchmarking program for commercial buildings. This requires commercial buildings above a certain size to basically publicly disclose how much energy they use each year. It's a very common policy being used right now, and actually does show that it also encourages people to lower energy use by anywhere between 2 to 5% a year. And then the last one is to explore similar policies to reduce residents' energy bills through energy efficiency. So this could also be through disclosures. This could be through other things like rental disclosure or time of sale, where again, you're disclosing energy use for residential homes when they're being rented or sold. Okay, so moving on to clean electricity. Here you can see again those two interim targets. And the first two, again, focus on municipal operations. So installing solar PV on city facilities themselves to reach 6% renewable electricity by 2030. And then also identifying off-site renewable energy solutions. The buildings themselves are not enough, but areas of land can be another way to install additional solar. The next three focus on encouraging community-wide renewables. The first one, like I mentioned, is really collaborating with WPS. They have goals to reach basically 60% renewable electricity by 2030. So making sure the city's working closely with on that to make sure both parties hit their goals. Facilitate a solar group buy for the community, which can help lower costs for people to install solar on their homes. And then streamline solar adoption by reviewing checklists and making sure there's clear instructions to residents on how they can get solar on their homes or businesses. Okay, transportation. For transportation, we focus both, again, on municipal fleet and then also EVs in the community, as well as holistic transportation solutions. So for municipal operations, we looked at piloting low carbon vehicles and municipal fleets. We identified which ones are both cost-effective and feasible right now and recommended those as kind of a starting point rather than starting with everything. And then the second one is again about enacting a policy to make sure that over time these changes are slowly made so that you're comparing the total cost of ownership, including the upfront cost and the operating costs when you're making a decision about buying a vehicle. For community-wide, we focus on engaging the private sector to develop public EV charging. We got a lot of comments that the city might not want to own the EV charging stations themselves. So really making sure that private sector is being engaged to develop a network in the city of Green Bay at strategic locations. And then supporting holistic transportation solutions like walking, biking, and using public transportation. Okay, so those kind of focus on the three interim targets, and then our last couple of focus areas focus on how to impact all of those. So this next one is focused on education. Because these are community-wide goals, there also needs to be education to the community to make sure that they're aware of the benefits of doing some of these actions. So all of these work together, including hiring an energy education employee, developing an education hub with energy resources, conducting outreach and marketing to residents and businesses, creating an initiative to highlight local energy actions that both can celebrate the successes that the city has, but also serve as a database of energy strategies that others can refer to, and then partnering with local organizations to grow the clean energy workforce to both drive economic development and also make sure we have enough people to do all this energy work. The last two focus areas are advocacy and urban tree canopy. Advocacy really focuses on working with other local governments to make sure that state policies are as friendly as possible for energy actions. So this could be things like making sure that that state energy code is strict for new construction buildings or allowing better financing mechanisms for solar. And then urban tree canopy really focuses on making sure that the number of trees that exist in the city continues to increase, which the trees absorb carbon and then also lower the need for air conditioning by providing shade. Okay, so that's kind of a lot of things to do. And so we also provided some strategies on how the city can implement some of these things. So the first one is to leverage an internal city team, make sure that there's a cross-departmental team that can work together on implementing some of these things through city operations, but also some of the community-facing policies. Collaborate with the Sustainability Commission. There's a lot of dedicated people there that can volunteer their time for education or research or other things like that. Develop a way to prioritize these things. So, we're talking about before 2030, there's a lot of funding that's coming down before 2030 from the federal government. So developing a yearly plan of what to prioritize. Consider how to track progress towards the overall 2050 goal, but also these 2030 interim targets. And then continue to engage the community to make sure that they know what the city's doing, can provide their own feedback on what they think the city should be doing. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of funding that is coming down. Here's a couple of different ways that the city can fund some of these things. One is to leverage fuel and maintenance cost savings that are generated from EVs or energy efficiency or solar to fund future capital expenses. Another is to apply for and create awareness of federal tax credits. Right now, the city can get up to 30% tax credit on any renewable energy installation or EV vehicles, so applying for those while we can. Utilize and publicize, focus on energy existing incentives, which are statewide incentives that also fund renewable energy and energy efficiency. And then identify and apply for other state and federal grants and financing opportunities. Again, there's a lot of money that's coming from the federal government right now that can help fund a lot of these different initiatives. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions that people have.
Thank you, Maddie. We will definitely open the floor, so I just want to wish you that right away.
Motion to open the,
Hold on.
motion to open the floor.
Okay, by X, seconded by
Second.
Campbell. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, okay, thank you. That's approved. All right, so if you want to come forward, state your name and address for the record, and then go ahead. We will ask questions and et cetera.
Thank you. My name's Barry Halgrimson. I'm at 130 Little Swiss Place here in Green Bay.
Okay.
In the news the other day was hacking of a water utility software control package. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if there was a lot of movement in that area now for people to improve the security of their operational software. So I can see a lot of overlap. So I hope that you'll take advantage of that. I did have other remarks, if you don't mind. I don't mean to
Yeah,
be number
if
one
we
on
can
the
keep it
list here.
to
I know
maybe
we've
3 to
done-
4 minutes, but, you know, we
I won't
will
take
be
anywhere
asking
near that
questions, we'll be asking questions to you as well. I mean, not you, but everybody.
Honestly, the Canadian forest fire smoke really hit me hard. And the environment and the damage that can be done to it, even by natural circumstances, really brought that to my attention. So I believe that the things over which we human beings have some control definitely need to be addressed if these kind of things are going to continue. I mean, as a senior, I was sequestered indoors for 4 or 5 days. Yesterday, I talked to one of the former ushers at our church who, because of COPD, actually had to go in to the hospital for several days for that. So air quality is really top of my mind, and I hope that the city will echo my concerns. My original remarks are, being chosen as America's most livable city was a wonderful recognition of this town we all call home, but it comes with a challenge and it comes with responsibility. You, council members, must admit that the award committee obviously recognized the effectiveness of our leadership, and that livability just doesn't fall out of the sky. We recognize it too, and we thank you for your hard work. But this is no time for champagne. You current members of the council have a challenge before you, and I phrase it to you as a question: is this the best we can do? Can we solve the affordable housing crisis? Can we fix these washboard streets? Can we guarantee equal justice to all? Can we educate our kids? Can we care for our elderly, modernize our prisons, and
Sure.
do our part to address the climate change issue by adopting the plan before you here today? So because you have brought us this far, I would answer all these questions with a resounding yes. Make this first step. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Committee, any questions? Otherwise, come forward. If anybody else would like to speak.
My name's Jeanette Cannell, 3003 Emma Lane Drive, Green Bay. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening on the support of the Clean Energy Green Bay Plan. I'm an active member of the Wild Ones organization and a certified master gardener and an avid home gardener, so I am very aware of how important climate is to the health of our backyards and gardens. Despite the prolific native pollinators that I grow in my yard, I have seen over the past several years a decrease in pollinator insects, bees, and butterflies. As I walk the trails in the Coffin Arboretum, I hear fewer birds singing. This disturbs me, and I'm concerned that we are going to be losing important ecological diversity that keeps our outdoor spaces healthy. The city's plan to increase the tree canopy throughout Green Bay, replace old failing heating systems to efficient, environmentally friendly, and cost-saving systems, and increase the number of electric vehicles on the road is a positive step towards reducing the overall carbon footprint that is left by using fossil fuels and inefficient systems. These are positive steps towards improving the air we breathe and the outdoor spaces for the flora and fauna. The items I have highlighted are important to me, yet there are many more ways the plan will improve our environment and save the city money over time through improved efficiency and energy cost savings. I'm asking you to pass the Clean Energy Green Bay Plan, improving our environment for us and future generations. Thank you.
Just a quick clarification here. Maddie, I don't know, we should be asking you questions. Does anybody have any questions of Maddie?
I do. Yeah. Catherine Kramer. I currently live at 3324 on Walter Way at the university. I'm a college student at UWGB. I guess my first question is, you had mentioned looking at clean electricity options, which you said was very much at the forefront of what you're looking to change. And you had mentioned solar and, in passing, nuclear. Were those the main ones that we were looking at converting to?
Yeah, great question. So solar is the main one that the city can install themselves on buildings or on off-site locations. It's a lot harder to install wind or something like that as the city. The other main one is geothermal, which is considered a renewable energy source. It also provides heating and cooling. So those are the two that the city can do on their own operations. The mention of nuclear was in reference to WPS's goals, and so their goals are to slowly transition to renewable energy, but nuclear will still make up a part of that mix, which is carbon-free, so it gets us closer to the carbon neutral goal. So the two main ones that the city can do are solar and geothermal, and then the utility can look at a lot more options in their mix.
Okay, awesome, thank you. My next question was mostly just because I'm not super familiar what the heat pumps are. Is that related to geothermal as well?
Yes, great question. So heat pumps are an efficient form of heating and cooling, so they provide both. There's different ways that they can be implemented. Geothermal is considered a type of heating heat pump. There's also air source heat pumps or water source heat pumps, and basically they all use only electricity and are 2 to 3 times more efficient than current heating systems, conventional heating systems. The other benefit of using electricity is that, like we mentioned, the electricity grid is going to continue to decline in emissions, while natural gas will continue to have a constant emissions rate. So we need to slowly transition to electricity so that we can hit carbon neutral.
Okay.
Yes.
That's my all for I have questions.
Does anybody else have questions for Maddie? Otherwise, we may be talking to you during the course, so.
Perfect,
Thank you
yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get right to the number 7 then right away. We already had some folks testify a bit, but number 7 is consideration with
Oops, she
possible
raised her
action. Pardon?
hand.
All right, I was going to get this point out and then
Okay.
we can speak.
Do we need to close the floor?
Oh, yes.
Unless we're going to the next one, but
Well, the presentation was a presentation. So do we have to really close the floor?
No, because
It was a presentation.
the
There were
presentation
questions
was
of the
primarily
presenter.
for Maddie.
Yes, yeah. But I thank you for that. It's, it was a presentation and these were questions directed to her. So we will open the floor now. That was my fault on that. So let's go to number 7. Consideration with possible action on a request by Department of Public Works to adopt the Clean Energy Green Bay Plan as recommended by the Sustainability Commission. So with that being said, now we can open the floor, and we already had a couple of comments already, so.
Motion on the floor.
Motion by Wery to open the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Eck. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now the floor is open. So now we already had a couple of folks speak, but now we will open it again. So is there anybody that would like to come forward? Just your name and address for the record and.
My name is Sally Ann Brickner, and I reside at 3110 Nicolay Drive at the Mother House of the Sisters of St. Francis of the Holy Cross. In 2012, I proposed that my community investigate renewable energy. And in 2014, my Franciscan community installed solar photovoltaic panels, which have provided 1,830 megawatts of clean energy with a lifetime offset of almost 1,100 tons of carbon. Currently, our solar arrays meet half of our electrical needs. We also adopted a corporate stance in 2016 recognizing the moral mandate to respect and care for Earth both personally and communally. I express my strong support for the Green Bay Clean Energy Plan as presented here. Indeed, there is great urgency that the city move toward a carbon-free future as envisioned by Mayor Genrich and the Common Council. That urgency was expressed by Pope Francis in 2015 encyclical Laudato Si, and most recently in his exhortation Laudato Dei, issued on October 4th. Speaking of environmental care, he said, "With the passage of time, I have realized that our responses have not been adequate, while the world in which we live is collapsing and may be nearing the breaking point. In addition to this possibility, it is indubitable that the impact of climate change will increasingly prejudice the lives and families of many persons. Our U.S. government concurs about the urgency. Its 5th National Climate Assessment, released on November 14th, found that the impacts of extreme climate events are costing America $150 billion every year. With every increment of global warming, costly damages are expected to accelerate, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. For example, 2 degrees Fahrenheit of warming is projected to cost more than twice the economic harm induced by 1 degree Fahrenheit warming. These dire predictions about the steep economic costs of inaction render an urgent adoption of clean energy by Green Bay. On another front, in May, U.S. News announced that, as previously mentioned, among 150 cities, Green Bay captured the highest ranking for the best place to live in 2023-24. Promoting climate resilience will enhance that value for Green Bay's residents and visitors alike. There are certain elements of this Clean Energy Green Bay plan that are particularly important because they promote engagement of Green Bay's businesses and residents. Notably, the promotion of solar. The city will achieve clean energy sooner by assisting businesses and residents with a cost-benefit analysis for solar installation as an investment choice, by facilitating a solar group buy to lower barriers and costs for solar, and by reforming the permitting process for solar installations. On the education front, though most respondents to the community survey agreed with the city's clean energy goals or desired that the goals be more ambitious, about 40% of respondents opposed the goals, thought them to be too ambitious or even far too ambitious. Education about the cost benefits of clean energy might be helpful in moving the needle of public opinion and generating early and wide adoption of renewable energy. Therefore, it would be very fruitful to hire an energy education employee who, like our outstanding resiliency coordinator, Melissa Schmidt, could coordinate the development of an education hub with energy resources, conduct outreach and marketing to inform residents and businesses about energy efficiency, electrification, and tax rebates available through the Inflation Reduction Act. The education coordinator could also highlight energy-saving actions by local businesses and residents. He or she could also work with Parks and Recreation to promote good urban forestry practices. I also support the transportation recommendations, especially the electrification of city-owned vehicles and buses, the expansion and improved service of public transit, and the installation of EV charging stations. We don't have an electric vehicle, but somebody does. Regarding the urban tree canopy, we see diseased and dead trees throughout the city, a matter which requires our urgent action on behalf of the 7th generation. We live on the ancestral lands of the Menominee peoples, who are renowned worldwide for their knowledge of forestry. An education coordinator could help us learn from the Menominee about urban forestry as a means of enhancing the beauty of our city, provide increased shade, and absorb excess CO2. It was wonderful to hear about the previous talk of planting so many more trees. And the IRA has a significant portion in it about urban forestry, which hopefully we'll take advantage of, getting federal funds for that. On the question of advocacy, the Clean Energy Green Bay Plan recommends that alderpersons like yourselves promote good public policy within the state of Wisconsin with respect to energy, clean energy. I recommend that advocacy at the federal level not be neglected. I'm a member of the nonpartisan Citizens Climate Lobby, which promotes renewable clean energy. One of the bills we are promoting now is the Big Wires Act. If passed by Congress, it would build a power grid fit for the 21st century. It would also reform the permitting process and lower our energy costs. Our legislators need to hear from all of us about constructive steps to adopt clean, renewable sources of energy. In conclusion, I know I went a little long. I wholeheartedly support the Clean Energy Green Bay Plan as presented tonight, with the understanding that it's a living document that will be revised and upgraded in the years ahead. I urge you, the Improvement and Services Committee, to endorse this plan this evening and to move it forward to Common Council for adoption. Thank you so much for your untiring service to Green Bay's present and future generations.
Thank you, sister.
I almost want to clap.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. Does that, anybody have a committee have a question of sister? Anybody? Otherwise, anybody else would like to speak? All right.
Hi and good evening. My name is Karen Schley. I live at 820 Ethel Avenue on Green Bay's west side. 10 years ago, if you mentioned global warming, people would laugh. Well, no one is laughing now. In the last 10 years, we have seen events that no longer can be denied. What we called the storm of the century has happened at least 5 times. Records set over 100 years ago for extreme heat have been broken multiple times. Part of our country is running out of water while the other part is being flooded. The air we breathe is polluted with the snow because Canada and the western states are on fire. More bottled water is sold than beer and soft drinks combined. Heat stroke is one of the major causes of death. Polar ice caps are melting at an unprecedented rate, which is causing sea levels to rise. The temperature of the water in the ocean is rising, which causes more hurricanes to be formed, causing billions of dollars in damage. Global warming is here and it cannot be denied. But somebody has to stand up and do something about it before it becomes too late to act. Someone has to take the steps to correct the problem before it reaches the point where fixing it becomes impossible. There is a tipping point in nature. There is a point where the smallest of actions can make a big difference. Little things that can produce big results. Planting a couple of trees can improve air quality. A rain barrel can promote water conservation. Solar panels can cut down on the pollution caused by electrical generation. LED lights can cut down on the energy in a home. A little insulation in your home, in your attic, can cut down on heating costs. Small stuff that doesn't cost a lot can collectively make a big difference. But why should I worry? I live in Wisconsin. Scientists have long speculated about ocean temperatures around the world and the effect they have on the Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream currently refers to the current in the Atlantic Ocean that moves water from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. If the temperatures in the southern hemisphere continue to rise over the next 10 to 25 years, the Gulf Stream will probably stop flowing, as it presently does, causing the temperature in Wisconsin to drop an average of 38 degrees. Hate winter now? Just wait. Global warming doesn't seem to be very funny now, does it? We need to do something about it now, or our grandchildren will hate us for not doing so. As a concerned citizen, I will be urging the Common Council to pass the Clean Energy Plan for our city. Thank you.
Anybody else? Going once? Okay.
I'm from Alloway.
All right. What's your name?
Linda Van Beek, and I live at 205 West Mission Road. I just really want to encourage you to pass this as an example to Alloway and all of Brown County. I'm not sure how it proceeds with a village like Alloway.
Well, we have 24 different governments in Brown County, individual villages, towns, and cities, so every community, I would think, would have to go along.
26.
Would you be influencing that? Would you be the generator of what happens with Alloway?
No.
No, not at all?
We don't have control that way.
But you're gonna, but if you pass this, you will definitely be setting a model.
That's
and-
probably what it would be. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm really encouraging to do that because of so many reasons, and you've heard all of them. So thank you for your effort.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Claire Westland. I live at 2683 East Shore Drive in Councilman Campbell's district. I'm going to try to stick to my paper, so I apologize if I'm looking down a lot. I want to thank you all for allowing us to be here to speak and also share why we support this plan. Through my career, I have the opportunity to meet with manufacturers, corporations, and intellectual property owners all across the world. What we're seeing in my industry is a shift towards sustainable and green practices, whether that's through manufacturing or the different products they produce. Most recently, my company attended an event at Titletown Tech where we got to speak with business owners talking about their tech startups, but then also why they decided to move their business and families sometimes to Green Bay.
What is your company? Can I ask what your company?
Sure, I'm under a conglomerate of the Village Companies in Pulaski.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Anything? Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
What do they specialize in?
The Village Companies, it's a conglomerate, so it's 5 companies currently, all specializing manufacturing, amusement. I personally do brand licensing, working with trademarks and infringement of different intellectual properties. So.
Sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it. That's okay.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't need to tell you how amazing Green Bay is and why it's all special to us all. However, I will say hearing about how special Green Bay is to people from all across the country is really inspiring. I think right now we have a unique opportunity and we're in a unique positioning with Titletown Tech to become part of the Midwest Technology Hub, which is expanding quickly, bringing jobs that are typically situated on the coast right here to our own backyards, which is nice to see. I'll go back to my notes so I don't mess up. So with this plan, we do have an opportunity to be a strong resource, not only for our residents that we're seeing with Group Buy, but also for our current businesses and future businesses that are planning to move here for all the reasons I stated. We have a lot of companies that I'm seeing in our industry moving towards green and sustainable practices, and I think that by being a resource for education, things like that here in Green Bay, I think we'll be able to have more companies come here looking for answers from us. So as a resident of Green Bay, I believe that by embracing clean energy, we're not only taking responsibility for our environmental impact, but we're also positioning our city as a leader in the area for sustainable practices. I wholeheartedly support the Clean Energy Green Bay plan and encourage you all to support this initiative for a cleaner, greener, and more sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have any other questions?
Any
Sorry.
questions?
I have to ask mine.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you. Anybody else? We already heard your testimony. Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello, I'm Samantha Amasoni. I live at 3294 North Circle Drive, also on UW Green Bay campus. I'm currently a senior there and have spent the past 3 years pursuing an education in environmental science and sustainability. I developed a passion for environmental conservation my first year of college after learning about how dire the climate change crisis was and how CO2 emissions were contributing to that. Of the 72 counties in Wisconsin, Brown County is the 13th highest generator of non-renewable energy, and this trajectory is rather pessimistic and is what makes me feel like I need to push for action that will boost our local economy and also create jobs through passing the Green Energy Plan, which will also cut taxpayers' money on utility bills, and by producing local energy, we can create permanent jobs within our community. With the daily advancements in technology that have been made to the required systems and equipment needed to make the transition to clean energy it is more affordable than they have ever been. This transition is extremely possible. If anything, we can follow by example from the city of Appleton, which is already making investments in technology such as heat pumps, which we discussed earlier. Achieving carbon neutrality for the city of Green Bay contributes to a healthier environment where we can all breathe cleaner air. And not only will passing this clean energy plan help propagate a better quality of life, but as many people's priorities shift towards sustainable options and alternatives, Green Bay will appear as a more desirable city for people to move to, which, as others have already expressed, being voted like a #1 city in the nation to live in. We're in the spotlight right now, and I think making the shift will be more attractive for people to come and establish families here as well. So overall, I just call on you to pass the Clean Energy Plan, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Okay, anybody else?
Hi, my name's Elena Damien, and I live at 3324 Walter Way. I'm a student at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay, and I, like many people here, are concerned about the current and future state of our environment. A lot of people said great things tonight, so I just really want to emphasize that this is a very worthy and very necessary investment that needs to happen and to happen as soon as possible, because we are running out of time. So I ask you to please vote yes on the Clean Energy Plan.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Andy Waterman, and I live in Alloway on Hastings Street, which is really close to Green Bay. And I work in Green Bay. I work at Oak School right now, and I just love Green Bay and how all their parks and how the city does so much for Green Bay compared to other communities. So I urge you to do this because it will be great for our community, as you know, as a lot of the other programs that you do. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Anybody else?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. My name's Carl Hughes, 1217 Gross Avenue in Green Bay. I used to be part of your district, Mr. Weary. Redistricting changed it, but I also support the plan. I have been doing what I can for years. One of the things I did originally was I bought a Camry, which was a larger car than what I had before, but it actually there was a manual transmission, and I was getting 40 miles to the gallon on the highway and about 28 in the city, which is, I believe in what many people here have said. We need to make a change at the personal level. I am looking into the solar. I'm also looking into the doing some of the other things, including the changing my type of cooking surfaces to reduce, to go with electric and the convection, not convection, in the magnetic cooktop, as well as hot water, and just trying to do what I can. Personally, I'd be one of those who would be saying the plan should go further. We need to do more, but it will, by enacting it, we will be, again, as others have said, we'll be showing the way to others. And so it could create a snowball effect across the state and across the nation. So I appreciate your consideration, but please do give your stamp of approval to the Common Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? One more time?
I'll come up again. Again, I'm Catherine Kramer. I live at 3324 Walter Way on UWGB's campus. I am very much in support for the plan. I'm also a biology with conservation and environmental science major. But I think that the reason that I feel that this is very necessary is because I'm in my early 20s and getting to the point where it's like thinking about like where I want to settle in life and what my future looks like. And talking with people like my own age, I do have friends that have started buying houses and getting married and having kids. It's very much a concern for our future as to how things are going to turn out. I know that many people my age have considered just not having kids and really focusing on where they want to live as where there are opportunities and safe and healthy places to live. And I think with the opportunity that we've been given as being ranked as one of the best cities to live in America, I think it's a really great time to market ourselves as a greener city with this plan and try to encourage people to come in and live here and make those moves to become a more sustainable community because people my age are looking for that. And I think it's better in the long run as well because I think at some point this is going to become inevitable. I think these changes are going to happen. So the sooner that we can get on those changes, the better. And I think it's very important that we try to push for this plan to become enacted.
All right. I do have a question for you.
Yes.
So, with the presentation, it even showed the pie chart where it said about 42% of the surveys taken were generally somewhat unacceptable. 59% were acceptable, and I think Sister mentioned the fact that it was a lot of it has to do maybe with education and that. So you being in your field and with the folks, the young folks that you deal with or are with, what's your take on that as far as 42% of the surveys out there said, well, I don't know.
As far as like
how would you report to that?
As far as whether the plan is sufficient enough, I think, in my personal opinion, that it is a great start. And I think there are many steps that we have to take. With the knowledge that I have, I think electricity is the biggest focus because it becomes very hard to make those transitions if the electricity isn't from sustainable sources. Because if we're trying to, you know, at a national level and a global level, they're trying to really push EVs. And if we are switching over to electric vehicles but don't have the electricity to back that from sustainable sources, I think it's hard to say that that's actually making a difference. So I think this is a great start, but I do think that at some point it'll have to become more.
Yeah.
But as I think someone had said earlier, there will hopefully be continual changes and improvements on the plan throughout the future. I think the people that, I guess, to clarify what your question was, were you asking specifically about the people that feel that it's not good enough?
It's more of a perception maybe on your part, you know, as far as, you know, how you think things are going that way. I mean, for myself, when I was in college in the 70s, they were pushing, remember Stuart Udall's book, The Energy Balloon. I don't know if anybody ever remembers that. It's a long time ago. But they were talking about, you know, solar power and such. But it was at a point where it was just not feasible for folks to do it. It just was way, way too expensive, and it would take forever and a day to recoup the cost, so to speak. So, in your estimation, do you feel that with technology and some of the things that are going forward and some of the government programs that might be in place, that there may be a better chance for citizens like yourself to be able to afford this?
I do. I am not super up to date as to like what the newest technologies are in the like sustainable sources of energy and how they are doing like at the moment with solar panels, but and solar power. But to the most recent knowledge that I have from about a year ago, there was a lot of great steps in the last like 5-10 years for the solar panels, and I think it has become much more affordable. There are a lot better options out there for it. I think a lot of times what people are worried about around here is whether we have enough sunlight, but I think that it's been proven that we do to make, you know, a big enough dent, as the sister had mentioned before, that they have installed solar powers and make up for half of their energy. And I don't know how large of a solar panel that they have, but I think we are definitely at the point where it's becoming much more affordable. And I think when there becomes a greater demand for it, I think it'll become a better field that people will invest in and hopefully bring the cost down as well. So.
That's great, thank you.
And if they do get into the buying, where you guys help get the group buys of equipment, it will bring the cost way down.
Yes.
And that will make it much more affordable. And so.
I agree with that.
All right, well, thank you for your testimony.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Anybody have questions?
I'd like to add
Yeah,
on top
go
of
ahead.
what you had. I appreciate, people getting involved at an earlier age, My wife always says, what did our parents do if you switch positions with us? What were we talking about out of high school? Recycling, God, Mom, do we gotta separate everything? I mean, these are, so, we've been doing this in our own way. Rain barrels, cutting our grass. I mean, when you get at a little older age and you settle down and you start having families, the sustainability, which I get the word of it in life, but sustainability of your budget, your family budget, and your job to produce it, and your income, and how important it is, and the cost. For instance, the city fire truck that they brought here from Florida, it's just hauls the hoses. It's all it does. Chief Knott brought us up to date so we could all look at it. The cost of that truck, empty, was the cost of the largest ladder truck that Green Bay could afford. How many years and how much taxes do you want to pay? And I asked them, we'll never have a fleet of them. Well, what will one do? Not much. You know, so you know, as you grow and you start to look back at your life, we're always moving forward. Everybody always wants to be ownership of the planet. And it's nice to see you younger kids looking at that and trying to invest in it, because I guess we might have did it too. You know, we lived in a little different age then. But I think we all kind of do it. For instance, I, for example, just put a new, more efficient furnace in our cabin. Okay, now, geez, I guess I can afford a cabin, maybe if I cut some corners at home, right? And I looked at the cost of it. For instance, a heat pump. So you're talking about your knowledge and you're open to it. A heat pump would heat this room, okay, per size, but it wouldn't heat this whole floor. So you'd have to have a heat pump in every single room because it's not directional. It's not a main central air, like central air says central air. So a heat pump can do air and it's electric. But transitioning even pipes and water, what are you going to do? I mean, you got to look at the sustainability of rural areas. How many years are they going to be behind us? I grant it. If you look at where the fires are and the grid and the lack of water and the lack of power, in Minnesota, where my daughter lives, if 3 people in their division charge their car, that's it. That's all that it can provide. And this is a newer development. So we have a lot of years, and I think what you were saying, and I'm asking too, is how long do you expect for this to happen? So from your age to ours, there's 40, 45 years there. And I think we've made a lot of strides. I think he was asking you in a certain way. How patient, I mean, yes, we have to start somewhere, but it can't happen overnight. And
Yes.
everyone, I have 2 acres, and how many panels could I fit in? I know where the panels are, I know how many there are. I know of exactly where that is. That would fill up my whole backyard. Well, now I don't have a backyard. How do I enjoy my backyard?
We'll be talking about that.
But that's
We're
what I'm
just
saying,
focusing
solar
on-
panel, I mean, there's a lot of ideas.
Yes.
Okay,
It's all been trialed.
Do you have a question for her?
yeah, just,
Well, I'm asking her,
okay.
are you gonna be patient with how long it takes?
Yes.
Because that's part of the process.
Yes, and that's why I think it's really important.
I'm not debuting it, I'm just going,
And that's why I
it's great
think-
that you guys are involved.
Yes, and that's why I think it's very important that we get started now, because the sooner that we can start installing that infrastructure, the less we have to do like later. And so we can, you know, kind of stretch out a little bit by being able to start getting there, like I said, with the electricity, by getting more renewable electricity sources.
We appreciate your efforts. So, okay, good, thank you very much. Come on up for a second time.
It's okay, do you just have a comment?
Is there anybody else that want to make a comment? Okay, come on forward, just, I'll let you, a couple of comments here.
This is a computer. It's in my hand. What? In 1976, I was a computer programmer. The computers I programmed were in rooms 3 times the size that had to be air conditioned, that I had to wear almost a winter coat in there because it was so cold.
I remember those days.
How many years ago was that, Alder Steuer, Weary, Eck, and Campbell? How many years ago was that? Yes. When did you think that we were going to have a computer that can do more than those computers that I had to put tape and cards and discs that were giant? And I had to program them with code that lasted forever. So, my point is, that wasn't that long ago. I was a young woman. I'm not that old now. Probably as old as you are. And so, let's be patient. Yes, it's going to cost money. But every year, the innovation changes and gets better and better. So I think we're looking at a lot less time than you think, Alder Campbell. I think that this is the way we need to go. Otherwise, we won't have any birds, bees, butterflies, or anything else. We have no fireflies anymore. When was the last time you saw fireflies? They're gone.
Yeah, well, thank you. Okay, hi, come on up.
My name is Krista Kainanen. I'm at 836 Hubbard Street in Green Bay. I'm also part of the Sustainability Commission, and I work with an organization called Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council. We represent about 200 companies around the state of Wisconsin, advancing sustainability in their organizations. And I support the Clean Energy Plan as a citizen, as a parent, as a member of the community. And I wanted to give you all an opportunity to ask any additional questions about the economic impacts of sustainability, of the plan, and particularly how it can impact business growth, development, or hinder it.
Well, thanks for coming in. I do have a question. You know, we were talking about like the overtime 30% tax credit incentives that will be out there. Anytime somebody does, you know, adds to their home, adds to qualities and all that, you know, you can get some tax credits and things like that. There's still an upfront cost, of course, but
Depending on what it is.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, but as far as you know, this graph here shows that 72% of commercial industrial businesses, as well as residential, which is 15%, that's 87% of the issues that we're talking about, the metric tons of CO2, are produced by those two entities. Now, you said you're involved with the commercial and industrial community, so what's your take as far, you might agree with that, but then what are, you know, as far as your thoughts moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I would say Green Bay is somewhat unique as a community in that we have a significant manufacturing and industrial presence with both a significant economic engine to this area and environmental impact. I worked at Green Bay Packaging for almost 7 years. I was part of the new mill development project. I'm familiar with both the costs and benefits of having that industry in the area. And, you know, specifically about, I'm wondering if maybe your plan is if you're asking if the plan goes far enough to address those particular types of emissions. I would say I would love to see the plan go further, and at the same time think this is a great starting point. As a city entity, with limited capability to enforce requirements, and I think that the plan outlines some really effective carrots where a stick may not end up being necessary. And I think that's one of the goals behind the plan and taking the approach that it takes.
And I think one of the things they're talking about, community CO2 emissions must be reduced by 4% annually to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. So, you know, when you pick a number like 4%, it could be, some years it might be more, some years less. I mean, is that something that you think is feasible?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, particularly I think with some targeted outreach and action with the business community, I think you could see a lot more and quicker gains than just 4% annually.
Sure.
Focusing on some of the highest impact users.
So with a lot of the businesses that you deal with, I mean, there's a transition that's going to take place to do this type of thing. So there will be costs in that. So the cost of doing business, is this something that you feel that a lot of businesses that you deal with will be able to do and still remain a business?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. A few people have raised the funding that's available. It is a great time to install energy efficiency sooner than later because the funds are available now. And a lot of companies are taking advantage of that because it makes business sense. Why not only take advantage of those cost incentives, but reduce your impacts, your costs associated with energy, water, waste, things like that. It's an upfront investment, but there's also significant ongoing benefits that have to be taken into account. And a lot of energy efficiency projects end up having less than 10-year return on investment time.
So, okay.
With a 20, 30, or even longer lifespan.
So you're saying with the monies that the federal government has put forward, that's something that's really, without
really
that,
feasible right now.
without that, you think it would be very, very difficult?
I think it would be a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's there, it's available now, now's a great time to act.
Is there a time frame on that as far as you
It's
know?
first come, first serve for the majority of the funding. So the sooner companies, nonprofits, cities, states take advantage of it, the better, because once it's gone, it's gone.
I do have something to add to that.
Oh.
Staff.
Yes, your staff.
So the funds through the federal government, through the Inflation Reduction Act, it's through 2032. So that's why everyone's saying the time to act is now, because, you know, we have basically less than 10 years left on this. You know, the ones that the municipality can use, but then also through that same funding stream for private businesses as well.
But once it's gone, right?
Well,
It
right,
might be available.
Just really
for
quick, there's no limit on tax credits, so as many people can apply for tax credits as long as they want, the federal government will keep giving the money until 2032. So it's not like businesses in Green Bay are gonna run out. So time is to act is now, but it's not like businesses could apply and not get it. The tax credits will be
So
there.
Melissa, is this cast in stone as far as 2032? I mean,
That's
depending
how the law was passed.
so the law will stay in place?
Right,
unless-
the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Okay.
Through 2032. And just to kind of answer you had mentioned, you know, if we didn't have these tax credits, would businesses still do this? Businesses have been doing this without, you know, the enhanced incentives. It's just going to be an even greater incentive to encourage this in a shorter, more compressed period of time. But there's incentives through the Focus on Energy program that have been around for a very, very long time. Tons of manufacturers use those rebates. I know we have someone from Focus on Energy online. Colton's our representative for the city through Focus on Energy. But anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the costs of energy, like water, like wastewater, I think you pointed out the costs of some of those things rising significantly. They're going to keep rising. And so installing energy efficiency is not only good for business long-term, but the payback gets even shorter as those costs rise, and they will.
So what's your take on the fact that we're looking at this as a city, but, you know, we have many other areas? Alder Campbell brought up the rural areas. I mean, it's going to be, you know, quite a project. I mean, borders don't stop thing, if you know what I mean. It's just a line on a map. So what's your take on?
Well, as it was pointed out, Green Bay can be a leader in this space. Several other cities around the state, most of the other big cities around the state have similar plans in place. And a lot of it is demonstrating the importance to those who might be on the fence, who don't understand all of the business impacts behind these initiatives. So I think regardless of how directly this plan serves to accomplish the goal of carbon neutrality by 2050, it takes us a step further, a step closer, and demonstrates leadership.
So you mentioned that it was mentioned that Appleton has a plan. In your estimation, or does anybody, do you know if it's affected the areas around them as far as other communities getting involved?
I don't know about Appleton's. I know Milwaukee, Madison have similar plans, and in fact, Madison has taken a similar approach in the carrot over the stick, leading the way and demonstrating what can work, and they've seen incredible cost savings and return on their investment, and their community following suit.
Okay, great. Committee, anybody have any questions at all?
Sounds like we need a Black Friday special on energy efficiency or something. We need to pass in Congress.
The holidays.
National holiday. I'm just coming up with an idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Was there somebody, oh, come on.
If I could, I really don't want to belabor this meeting, it's run quite long enough.
Oh, that's fine. We love meetings.
But I'm not from Green Bay. My daughter and
What's your
me live
name?
on Gross Avenue.
Your name and address?
My name is David Verhagen. I live on Midway Road in town of Rockland.
Okay.
My daughter lives on Gross Avenue. Like, we lived there 30-some years, and we take great pride in Green Bay. Like most rural people in Brown County, we live rurally, but we work, we play, we recreate in Green Bay. We shop in Green Bay. Green Bay is the center of gravity for all of us in Brown County, and what Green Bay does is far more important than you might want to say. My wife and I put solar panels up in the end of 2014. We've had them since beginning of 2015. And I only mention that to speak to Mr. Campbell's position. Since we put our system up, the cost of solar panels has dropped in half. We still had a payback of only about 6 years on it, owing in part to some of the federal tax credits that we were able to employ. But Green Bay could do something that would really put them on the map. You're already a leadership community. We've spoken to how it's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise a family. We know that, and the U.S. News World Report, or whatever magazine it was, pointed out for the country it is. But we're going to be planting lots of trees here. We heard this earlier tonight, and that's wonderful. So what happens in my daughter's block is she has no access to the sun, all these nice big trees, and people in apartment buildings have no access to solar panels. But what they have done in Minnesota that I'd love to see Green Bay do is really help people with solar in a more innovative way. Even though the cost of panels have come way down, the cost of the pipes on which you mount them and the wiring has not gone down. The cost of labor, you all know, has gone up dramatically. Those costs are called balance of system. And those balance of system costs are really the cost more than the panels nowadays. But consider this, what if Green Bay was able to facilitate building solar panels where you could see the sun on parking lots, up on stanchions, or on top of warehouse buildings or municipal buildings that house any number of the different things Green Bay does. Then all of your balance of cost systems are in one spot in bulk, and the cost per unit goes down. What City of Kaukauna has done, what they do all over Minnesota, is individual homeowners on a condominium basis, for pretty low buy-in, can buy as many panels as they feel is right for them, either based on what their economics are, what they can afford, or based on what their consumption of electricity is, and they can change it as time goes on. And the electricity produced by the number of panels that they have bought on a condominium basis, a portion of that money pays off the cost of the panels, but the balance comes off their bill every single month. So they get a lower electrical bill from the first month when they buy into the condominium. The city as a whole is hitting their goal then for a more economic, or rather a more sustainable energy consumption. And then you're doing something that is very proactive with homeowners who don't have to cut down trees to see the sun. They don't have to get in an argument with their neighbor who just planted a big oak tree. I love oak trees. I ain't want to see nobody cut them down. But they can do it on a condominium basis with panels on the neighborhood school. If we're starting on neighborhood schools and the school board gets done. Or other neighborhood-based areas. And it would put Green Bay on the map, leadership in the whole state, and would continue to enhance the influence that Green Bay has, not just in Brown County and not just in Wisconsin, but beyond that with Microsoft and other big players in Green Bay. We're proud of this community, proud to be members of this community. And I believe that this plan would help further underscore that pride and build that pride and give us good reason for people to look to Green Bay for leadership. So I'm not from Green Bay, you don't have to listen to me, but my daughter lives here and she listens to me.
That's fine, we appreciate it. I mean, we're all in the county here.
All right. And like I say, we walk, we work, we play, we recreate in Green Bay. We look to Green Bay for leadership.
Well, I think one of the things the plan talks about is that there would be citizen members, there'd be city staff, there would be a number of folks that'd be talking about things like that and other things.
And to be sure, no utility, whether it's NEW Water or anyone else, is going to have a different policy of Green Bay than they have for Alloway, than they have for De Pere. It's an administrative nightmare. So if Green Bay requires certain standards, those standards will, by de facto, become standards for most of the county.
And it has mentioned that, WPS, is already moving ahead here.
Yep.
And is committed to a transition to clean electricity. So whether the city does it or not, there's other, I'm not saying we won't, but I'm just saying that there's other entities and utilities that are working on some of this already.
You lead, you follow, or you get out of the way.
Wow. You make that up?
No. Obviously not.
You did.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Was there anybody on, well, okay, I was going to ask if anybody was on Zoom. Steve, you see anybody?
No, I don't think so. The only people who are on Zoom, we have one city staff, and then again, our representative for Focus on Energy.
Okay. All right, is there anybody else? Very good discussion. All right. All right, we Motion
to close the floor.
Motion by Weary, do we have a
Second.
second? By
Second.
Campbell, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, some very good discussion. You know, I think, I have a number of questions, I know the committee has a number of questions as well, so I don't know if, committee, anybody would like to start?
First one, I'll do one, sure, thanks.
Okay, Alder Weary, go ahead.
Melissa or Maddie, right?
Yes.
Maybe for yourself or Seth, whoever wants to. The Clean Energy Green Bay, and I had mentioned this to you, Seth, is really, when you showed it here, it's like a 10-year plan, or till 2030, kind of our initial plans really focus on that.
On the more near-term
Yeah,
actions. But the overall goal is,
yeah. Is there any way, I'm sure we'll have like any plan updates in the future, like, update 2040, update 2050. Could we put in a subtitle, the 2030 objectives, 2030, something like that, just to show, hey,
Levels?
this is kind of what we're working on now, because most of what, I read the whole thing. And I
So
took a
what
lot of
then?
notes. What would you put, if you had to put, phase 1, 2030 objectives, what would you prefer?
you mean as far as a title or?
Yeah, just underneath the Clean Energy Green Bay, just to signify, hey, this is kind of our first step. This
Structure.
isn't all of it, because we all admit, and I've passed so many plans over 20 years and they all change, because technology changed, times change, funding changes,
Right.
things change.
Right.
So what would you say, and you can think about it, doesn't have to be right now, but
Sure.
I'm just curious.
Phase 1.
I don't have any strong objections to that. I just don't want it to muddle
Yep.
the long-term goal.
And the reason I was putting it in there is the long-term goal is lofty, but we don't know yet what we don't know. In 2030s, there's gonna be some people out there who invent stuff that we don't even know, and so, I know it's a plan, but I just wanted to show that, hey, right now, I hate the saying, we're picking the low-hanging fruit, but we're doing a lot of things that are easier, right, that we can do, and feel we should do, but think about it, and we have a week till next week. So. I got a lot of other notes, so I stayed up pretty late. I usually don't. But last night, sometimes life just gets in the way, right? Last night was gonna be my night to sit at home with a nice beer and go through this thing, or soda for the young ones, and go through this thing. And my mom ended up in the ER, so I was there most of the night. So I stayed up to like 2 a.m. and my notes are everywhere. So I apologize. I'm usually much more organized, but.
We're doing fine.
Somebody mentioned reduce, reuse, and recycle, and that's what I grew up with. So reuse, reuse, recycle, 70s and 80s, that's right, that was our thing. So yeah, we've come a long way since then. I mean, this wasn't.
Still stands.
Go ahead.
I have scattered notes here. I like the self-sufficiency. I do really like the carrot and not the stick, because I mentioned that back when you first started it. Say, hey, you know what, let's show people a better way, encourage them to do it, because when you start swinging a big stick, first of all, the government's not always right, so you better be right when you're going to force people to do things, and there's going to be a lot of resistance to that, so that's a good place to start. I know at the state we can't do a lot of that anyway, but, I always thought we had more natural gas than we did. Honestly, when I started looking into it last night, I thought we had like 200 years left, something like that, and it's like 50 to 75, maybe, something like that. So, and with gas, it's about the same. I really did think we had more natural gas than we do. We have coal for like 100 years, but that's the dirtiest, of course. So, at some point, we're going to change, and you do want to be ahead of it before everybody has to do it. Then it's more expensive, and you're behind, and your lead times are not a year and a half, it's 10 years. So, I'm fine with that. I think we do need to strive and be better. I put in a tankless water heater like a year or two ago, and it works great. It uses a lot less energy. You're not just heating water to sit there when you want it. You just heats it when you need it. And so that helped. I'll let somebody else blather on. I'm all over.
I've owned 20,000 square foot buildings. I've moved 6 or 7 times, and I've replaced the lights in it every single time. I've replaced signs on the front of my building twice now. Once to more efficient back in the day, and I had to laugh at it because the second time I rebuilt it, I put all the LEDs in it. I mean,
But did somebody tell you to do that? You just did it.
No, people come to the door, and it's like, oh geez, you talked about that the last time, let's go over it one more time. Like you said, it's almost kind of got to learn a little bit about it, and then you got to do I should do it kind of thing. And I think the city overall, as as a business has to look at all that too. And I think Steve does a really good job, and I'm sure, but he knows the cost it would take, and the training, and the turnover, and the people, and I mean, it's a growing thing. We'd all love to go snap it tomorrow and get that, I'm gonna title it, the Black Friday special, but buy one, get one. I don't care what you call it, But I think everybody in general doesn't hate it, and we're told so many different things with today's society, whatever you're getting is real, and it's a 100-mile checklist to find out that information. And the big bat, the big brother, call it what you want, Chris is good at that. Sometimes the ask is just, I don't want to think that hard. I don't want to try that. I don't have the money. The biggest thing I see, even in my district, an older district, and I look at Green Bay in general, why it's so great. You have a lot of old people, a lot of generation, a lot of people that go, I used to live in that house, and then I moved over there, and then my sister lives over there. Everybody's neighborhood is like that. But these places have, for an instance, we talked about over in our park, just as an example. There's 1-stall garages then. Now people need 3-stall garages. If you just talk about carbon footprint, just think of that alone. But think of, you're one of how many kids in your family? I was one of 6. He was one of, we were bigger families, bigger generations, and that's when it all started to change. Mom literally had to go out and get a job back in the day, I'm not that old, but, I remember it. But that's what it took to build a family. And, all your schools and everything just grows right along with it. And, when you're younger, I will admit, I'll go home with this, we didn't care that much about government then. Now, we can't get enough of it, because we care. We care for the future, we care for the people that are coming up. So it's really great to see involvement in it, and that's just the biggest thing I'm coming out of tonight with. I think everybody learned a little bit both directions here, and respect for each other, and it's not gonna get done with a one-side, two-side thing, and that's always what it's gonna be about. Who knows more? It's not about that, it's about sharing it, and to move on, and if you strike out, you strike out. You get up there the next time and you try harder, you know what I mean? Simple things, simple minds, but I think it turns into good data, and you go home and if you just go right to sleep and you don't think about it, then you probably don't care. But I think, like you said, that's how you think about it, but it's like, for instance, the first building I into it, second building I put the new light, third building I for sure put the new lights in, you know what I mean? Okay. So just in those kind of business costs, because that's what you gotta look at, the bottom line. Why? Because I want to be able to sell the best service, the best product to you without you having to spend all the money you spent to get this clean energy, and now you ain't got nothing left to spend by me, even though mine just has something to do with the outdoors, no cost you nothing, except to get there. But that's the kind of thing, I'd just like to bring the whole happy side to this, because I think it was a good meeting, good presentation. Thank you.
Great. Alder Eck, do you have something at all?
I have a few things. There's not a lot of estimated costs that are included. I know you mentioned we could ask about it. There's a lot to ask, but that wasn't part of the presentation, and that's a big concern for me. I took a ride in the fire truck, and it was double the cost of the regular road, the truck. And I know how. I remember. So we'll talk about our age here. When we had the big console TV, the console TV versus now, the flat screens, they were very expensive. And then it went down. As time goes on, the cost of things go down. So eventually, it probably will go down. Right now, I'm all for people and businesses, including WPS. From their standpoint, they have a huge they're a huge part in this, to transition as they choose towards helping the environment. I am a big proponent of that. I recycle, I compost, I do all these things. I have more recycling than I do garbage, when I put it on the curb, way more. But I'm not okay with it being funded on the backs of the taxpayers. And when I see
that 42% of the people that participated in the community engagement were not in favor of it, based on opposed to the goal, far too ambitious, too ambitious. That's obviously negative comments. 42% is just not an overwhelming amount for me. So I would say I would highly encourage individuals and businesses, but I can't support taxpayers coming out and having to pay for the costs of these things. Being forced to it, I just can't do that. And that's a strong statement, I know.
Okay, hold on. The floor is closed right now, so if, do we need, staff, I'm sorry. I saw a hand up there. Melissa?
Yeah, there was a couple of things that Alder Eck brought up that we'd like to address. One, the costs, and there is cost included with the plan. Estimated cost for the PV, if you go into Appendix A, it has the different upfront costs that are included with that, and the paybacks. So that is included with the full plan. And then as far as the 42%, I know that's been brought up a couple of times, and I would like to pull up that pie chart if we could, because it wasn't 42% of people against the
We're not going to
plan.
be able to.
Okay. It's not 42% of people were opposed to the plan. There's more nuance with that. Let me find the chart. Okay. It's in the community engagement section.
Okay, Melissa? It was 19% were opposed. Far
Right, so
too
it's-
ambitious at 12%, too ambitious at 11%.
Right, so
So
within
if
that
you-
too ambitious, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were opposed to the plan. It may have been, hey, this is I'm using your word as lofty, I think I've heard you use that word. But
That's
it
not a bad
doesn't
word.
necessarily mean that they were opposed to actually implementing the plan. Okay? Just right, 23%, could be more ambitious, 26%, not ambitious enough. So 23, that's 49, 59%, just based on those segments are in favor of it. And then opposed, I mean, that's pretty black and white. Definitely 19% are opposed to the plan. So don't use that 42%, that's not how this is, the survey,
So
interpreting the survey.
the survey was to 650 folks. I mean, can you mention the cross-section of who kind of went on that survey?
You mean as far as the demographics?
Yeah, just the demographic, just ballpark, doesn't have to be exact.
Maddie, Maddie, go ahead.
Am I allowed to talk at this
Yes.
point? Okay, sorry, I have the answers to these questions,
You're
but.
staff at this point.
Okay, I'm staff at this point, okay, I just wanted to make sure. So, yeah, so the 650 was well spread across the city. It was a good mix of different age groups. It was, it did lean slightly white in terms of demographics, but so do city demographics overall. Same thing, it leans slightly towards people that own homes, but again, so do city demographics overall. So overall, if you look at it in a statistical way, which Slipstream did, it is a statistically significant look at city opinions on the goal. And so I think what Melissa's saying is important to just keep in mind that some of the people that commented that it was too ambitious or far too ambitious, one, they were only commenting on the 2050 goals. They were not commenting on this plan overall. And so that's why this plan did focus in the near term on what's cost effective and proven rather than looking all the way ahead to 2050. So I just want to clarify that. The other thing I just want to clarify really quickly is on the fire truck. All of our fleet recommendations are things that are cost effective right now. So in no way are we recommending that the city considers buying that fire truck right now.
I was just using it as an example.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear.
Because I know that, because the chief told me that.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure
Same
most
here.
of the
He said
fleet
he wouldn't ask us
recommendations
to.
that are there are actually the incremental cost is close to zero or a payback of 2 to 5 years for most of the EV vehicles that are being recommended right now. So I just wanted to clarify that as well.
Okay. Unless
Thank
you have
you.
anything more?
Well,
we can go back and forth.
Yeah,
I
that's
got a
fine.
couple, and
That's fine.
we'll be here for a few minutes. So, Director, I was gonna ask you, we look at the CIP, moving forward, the capital improvement program and things in that order. At first blush, do you see that, it might be too early to speak on it, but as far as the CIP and some of these directives that are coming forward with this plan, do you see that being able to be put into a CIP fairly
Implementable?
seamlessly?
Yes, I do.
That's a good word, implementable.
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
Because not only do I see it as implementable, after reading through the plan, there are the reasons that the department supports the plan the way that it's written. Again, this is a guidance moving forward. We fully understand that it will be revised as time and technology goes on. But this gives us the guidance to move forward and gives us the framework that we can move in to start that implementation. Overall, the goals that have been identified within the plan are achievable. So it's not so lofty that it's a great idea, but how are we going to get there? These are actually manageable pieces over the next 6 years, and then with some more lofty type goals between 2030 and 2050, fully realizing that by the time we do a revision by 2030, there are going to be things that change and ways that we get there. It's a public and private implementation document, and as a matter of fact, it's very heavily reliant upon public sector or private sector implementation. We talked about the carbon emissions that are out there and how much of that is in industrial commercial buildings versus in private buildings or municipal. So implementation of a plan like this and getting the outside, the private side engaged, that's where we're really going to see, with the Wisconsin Public Service and the clean electricity, and then engaging some of the private sector to provide programs encouraging them to implement these recommendations. That's where we're really going to see the payoffs, not so much putting energy efficient windows at City Hall, okay? It incentivizes and encourages rather than threaten or have risk of negative consequence. So you always get better voluntary compliance within the groups that you're working with using the carrot versus the stick. And then one of the other things that has come up just anecdotally here in the last few comments is it doesn't require us to immediately replace things we just spent money on. It relies on end-of-life replacement, and if we're already replacing something, to consider replacing with something that has a lower energy output or a lower carbon footprint to it. And one of the big changes that we will be looking at, and I'm going to be honest with you, we're going to do this regardless of what happens with this plan. The plan gives us that recommendation to look at a life cycle cost as opposed to an upfront cost. Once you start looking at that life cycle cost, an energy efficient or a non-carbon producing vehicle may have a higher upfront cost, but deferred costs in the fact that we don't have fuel consumption, lubricating oil consumption, those parts that typically wear out, break, or are otherwise damaged due to an internal combustion engine, we don't have to worry about those anymore. Those become non-issues. So repair costs go down if you're not dealing with an engine or the same type of mechanical transmission that we're dealing with in those. Okay, that's just one example, but we're going to be taking a look at life cycle costs on equipment, vehicles, things of that nature, as opposed to just concentrating on the upfront cost. If that vehicle's got a 12-year service life, we need to consider what those deferred costs down through the course of that 12-year service life are, and make the best choice over the life of the vehicle, not just an upfront cost. So again, those are some of the big takeaways from the plan, and much like we talked about with the GSI plan, what we'd like you to be looking at is the plan, the goal, and not necessarily some of the individual pieces. The implementation will come. We need the plan to start the implementation.
Okay, as far as the comment that all the worry made about, looking at the plan and saying, we're looking at 2050, but, incrementally doing it. And, I heard Melissa's comments too. What's your take on that as far as?
My take is that we should actually call it the 2050 plan, because we will then have revision number 2 of the 2050. We're still driving at the same goal. The goal is down there, and that goal is carbon neutrality in 2050. This is the first step. As we have the 2027 revision to the 2050 carbon neutrality plan or something like this, those revisions will define themselves, and it's still always, in my opinion at least, it's still always driving at that 2050 carbon neutrality goal.
Does that answer a little bit of that, or go ahead?
Well, that would lead me to a question. Is the title Clean Energy Green Bay, or is it is 2050 in the title? I don't.
The official title, and this was, this was one of the survey questions.
Yeah.
Was, names, is Clean Energy Green Bay Plan.
Okay.
Clean Energy Green Bay is the title.
The title.
So
there's no dates in there, per se.
Well,
the goals are stated within the
below.
plan.
And I agree with you. I think that's something that I can discuss with Melissa and potentially bring you something prior to council.
And I know it's semantics on some of
Yeah.
this, but what if it said focus, near-term 2030 goals? It is a 2050 plan, but the focus is, clearly, when you read it, on 2030
Well, I was thinking something along the lines of Green Bay Clean Energy Plan, a guide to carbon neutrality in 2050, interim goals 2030, or something along that line. That gives you the official name of the plan, then subtitle it as why we're doing the plan and what part this is.
I think that helps because, well, a layperson, anyone else in the community who just reads it says, wow, you've got some goals in here that are like, holy,
Buckets,
wow.
yes.
I mean, it's a lot, right? It's just a lot. But when they see, all right, we're really focused on this near term, which I think are all very doable, very, very doable, and then we'll reevaluate.
Sure.
Because there's going to be new technologies, new ways of doing things, and those decisions could look a lot different.
Yeah,
So
if you'd like, I'd be happy to work with Melissa and
I know it's
maybe
worded
and
pretty
narrow
matters.
something down like
You know,
that for
Can we
you.
bring that for council?
Sure.
That would
appreciate it.
Ideally, I'd like to have something before the end of this week so I can email it out to
That
you,
would
so
be
you'd have a choice, chance to do that.
I just wanted to chime in a little bit on page 3, you do in the introduction, and I think it's important, and it is well crafted and written, and I think carefully so, that it's cost effective and affordable is your first bullet point. The second one is feasible and proven, and then benefits provided the community. So it's not just a pie in the sky thing, it's based also on realizing we have certain limitations, whether it's community approval or monetary. There are limitations, and you're going to balance it. You're just not going to just grab the first shiny thing no matter the cost. You're going to weigh it out. That's why I do like the pilot programs on a lot of things. Let's try out what a police car looks like with electric. Might not be so hot, it might be great, but we don't know. And so I like that pilot. We're not just jumping at it. We're saying, you know what? We're going to find because there's a lot of different models in there from police cars, and I'm sure we're going to try out a lot of different ones, but because especially the safety things, the fire engines, the police cars, our snow plows need to work when you need them. So I don't think we want to tell the community we're just going to jump and hope it works, but we're going to get there. Somebody's going to invent something. One of these young people here are going to invent some technology that'll make you a multi-billionaire and save the world. So small thing to put on your shoulders. So.
Put that on your resume.
No, that's up top.
Well, thank you.
I found some energy.
Yeah, you spent some energy there, yes.
I'd just like to add to Trish's before Melinda goes in there, just a little additive. Just similar to our Parks Committee there, where we evaluate a playground and we give it the highest scoring value. I think we do that a lot on the Pazer, we do it in a lot of different things in the improvement in services and how we evaluate our best option. Sometimes it's not the cheapest one, but it scored the highest. I think kind of developing that into each stage of what you're talking about, I think is kind of a scoring so people can really understand, like you said, trying out that, and then how would that work for this? I think that's a good idea.
And I think that's built in when Mandy had the implementation slide up. The third bullet point in there was to develop a prioritization process. So that would be a scoring. That could be part of that right there, yes, 100%.
Great.
I must have spent, sorry.
Sorry. Alderette?
Well, just a few things, that right now, we're looking at the possibility of replacing several municipal buildings. I mean, we need to look at replacing City Hall, we need to look at replacing municipal court, the fire department, well, stations 1 and 3.
Right.
The police station. So it doesn't, kind of keeping that in mind, you don't want to spend a bunch of money on changes on buildings that need to be replaced.
No, and that, there again, that's what I'm talking about. This doesn't, the adoption of the plan doesn't call for us to go and make these wholesale changes right now. As we're looking at replacing a building, we should be implementing energy efficient savings within that new building. If we have to renovate a building for some reason, we should be looking at where that carbon neutrality or carbon reduction can be implemented with those renovations. But again, one of the things the plan does call for is the economic evaluation. And if it's not economically feasible for us to do that, then we won't do it. There is an economic balance test that needs to be part of that as well.
Second,
Yeah.
this is for Steve, because in that, you're putting me on the spot here.
Yep.
You're good at that,
That's
right?
what I get paid for.
Yeah. Well, in a previous meeting, you mentioned that we were gonna have to choose between trees and construction of sidewalks and roads. And so how does that go with the 800 new trees we're getting? And that's why we asked where they're gonna go, and I was kinda curious about, they said, no, they don't know.
They don't know.
But I
They're
also know
talking
you said
about
you're coming to
increase-
us to ask us
Yep.
about that.
The plan calls for increasing the urban canopy. It does not necessarily call for increasing the urban canopy within the public right-of-way. It calls for increasing the urban canopy. So that, there again, there's a heavy reliance on incentivizing and encouraging within the private sector. So my home, I live on a corner lot, it has 6 trees, all of them in the public right-of-way. I have 18,000 square feet of lot. There's room for me to plant more trees within the private sector. For me, increasing the urban canopy without touching the public domain.
Right, which would be your personal, choice
Correct.
in doing it.
Your choice, right.
Choice, keyword.
Right.
And the urban canopy, I think is an important thing. I mean, we've talked about that, and Green Bay's been called Tree City USA for how many years? I mean, when you fly over Green Bay, you see all the trees. It's amazing, the tree canopies. So, with the emerald ash borer, and, that's been a painful thing for not only us, but for a lot of communities. You're taking all these trees down and in the right of way.
Well, and that's something
And the
that
elms.
we've worked with the forestry department on as well, is within the public right-of-way, selecting the appropriate species out there so that trees can coexist with the hard infrastructure that needs to be there, like sidewalks and streets. There was a heavy reliance years ago on ash, on elm, on lindens. Oh, dear
It's my
Lord.
house.
Okay. Lindens, it's a beautiful looking tree at maturity, but my God, they're dirty. They drop all kinds of seed pods and things. And the root systems spread out and keep sidewalks, okay? What we found is you can't plant a linden that has a 65-year lifespan, the tree gets to be a certain diameter, in a 4-foot wide terrace. It's just not compatible. So what we're looking at is working collaboratively with planning, zoning, and community and economic development to set the subdivision standards correctly so that we have adequate terrace widths, and then working with forestry to select tree species that can survive within that terrace width and still provide the biodiversity so we don't have entire subdivisions that are nothing but ash and get wiped out by one bug. We have to have diversity across those species to make sure that the next thing that comes, the oak wilt, the emerald ash borer, the Dutch elm disease, doesn't wipe out an entire subdivision canopy.
Well,
So
we've been ahead of
there's
the
a
game.
lot of moving parts in here
We've
that
been ahead
are all
of the game
interconnected.
with that, because urban forestry really was, in the mid-70s, was kind of a new thing.
Mhm.
And over time, they used to plant, the entire road was the same species of
Right.
tree. but now they're doing it, every 300 feet, a different species. So, I mean, there's been a lot of advancement with that, and what you just stated about the type of root control or root growth, that's important, so.
This will be a good segue for the tree protection ordinance. Like, I was too late, so I barely looked at it, but what does that entail? It has to do more, I think, with private trees, right? So
tree protection.
That I was just curious about that. It said explore a tree protection ordinance, and I had that note just with a question mark.
Protect and maintain existing trees.
I'm gonna be completely honest, the forestry staff member recommended most of the things that went in for urban tree canopy. So you picked the one section that I don't know, like the back of my hand.
Stumped you.
Call him.
Well, we had him on.
Brian, you had your hand up, go ahead.
Brian, is he here?
Well, he's
Brian, go ahead
still
and
there?
unmute yourself.
He
You
is.
can
Really?
It's called Stump Natty.
Stump.
Oh, get it? Oh, Randy was.
Yeah, you're good, we can hear you, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Okay, yeah, so there are tree protection ordinances that are already in place. It's a matter of enforcement. But they pertain to public trees that are planted in the right of way.
Okay, so it's not a private property issue. Okay.
Correct.
Thanks for sticking around, Brian.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's all I have for that.
Okay, good. Committee, anything else here, or? I'll just state, I'm a little older, as you always say, but, my children are 26 and 30. And, okay, so you say it too? I don't forget it. So, I listen to them a lot too. So, and there's concern, and of course, every generation since time immemorial, they always worry about the next generation, what's going to happen, and the world's falling apart, and the good old days, they weren't always that good. There's a lot of things that our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents went through. I'm just stating that, this, for myself personally, when I plan, when I vote on a plan, I'm not voting necessarily for myself, I'm voting for the future. So I think this is one of those future-type votes. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks. So the floor is closed, correct?
It is.
We still have 19 agenda items after this, don't we?
Oh, thanks.
So after this is over, when you guys all go home and just relax, enjoy life, we'll be here for quite a while.
Thank you for moving it
Depends on
up.
Unless you want to
Thanks
stay.
for moving it up.
Yeah, well.
They could have listened to all that, right?
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
Just a brief, I really thank you for coming here. It's, it's not easy to get up and speak in front of the public, I think everybody did a good job, especially sister over there.
Except Rob.
Everybody did. I just wrote this down, and I think it's important, because we may come at this from different spheres, philosophically, politically, we come at this from different directions, right? We may disagree on the extent of change or what's causing it, but what we all agree on, I think, is we can be better stewards of our environment. And so that we can find common ground on and work together on. And so that's what's inspiring to see here. And that's what I'm fine with, knowing it's a plan. I mean, sometimes, does a plan come back and say, well, this is in the plan, but council or community can say, you know what, yeah, that was in the plan, but we want to adapt. So I get it. If we can work on changing that title, that'll really alleviate some of my angst.
Sure.
I know, silly maybe, but I'm fine with moving forward on this, because I think those near-term goals are achievable, and they will prove to be sustainable for us and save money and do all those things that we want, and it'll move the ball. A long journey starts with a step, right? So we're all agreeing to take this step. So I'm fine if we change that title.
Take the clap back after that.
What's that?
What do you want the title?
Well, they're gonna bring it to us, right? It was.
Okay, so.
And I might say, add to that too. And then Chris, that was a good presentation there, and one of the things he told me a long time ago, he'd make a good council person, and one thing that always stuck in my mind, he said it's hard to be an alderman, and I think that's the point you were trying to make, and I'm now up here. And everybody takes a turn, and I think that's kind of what I was trying to say before, and younger children are, and we have quite a diversity here of people, and ages I meant, and views, and political views, and everything, just like you said. And I just want to add to that. One thing, Chris, that always stuck in my mind, and he always would say, he goes, it's hard to be an alderman because he says there's a right person and a wrong person, and you gotta be the guy in between. I think you really just explained it in a different, more complex way. And, you know, that's what we learn from more experienced people as newer, and Mark also. And, you know, and we gotta rely on our staff and committees, Melissa and everybody for that, you know, and make the decisions to hire the consulting people to look into this deeper for us and compare it.
That's me.
No, I agree with the sentence. Oh, go ahead. Finish your-
I was just going to add to that and say, no matter what we do here, let's say we do approve this and pass it, people will be mad. We're doing too much, we're not doing enough, so, but we're doing something. So that's what you learn as an elected person, you do something, and the outliers, well, you can't please everybody, so you help get it here, everybody who's here, so.
No, there's been a lot of work put into this.
Well said, Steve.
And I'm on the Sustainability Commission, I'm proud to be on it. You know, I think there's some great things that have come forward. I think a lot of times, I've been on council for almost 12 years now, and many times, you know, Green Bay, not all the time, but there's times where we're kind of following a couple different things. I think right now, we have a chance to be a leader. So I think that's the way I'm looking at this.
I'm surprised you guys didn't think of like, keep the green in Green Bay. You know, something easy, Randy would have thought. Randy would have thought. I patented it, trademark, copyright.
Well, whatever I was about to say won't count, though, right? No. Anyway. No, I'm just stating
Maybe instead of Black Friday,
that many
Green
times
Friday.
when we vote on some of these things, it's, times where it's a win-win, sometimes it's a lose-lose. I think in something like this, that it's a plan, like Director Grenier mentioned. It is a plan. And I worked in the planning office for 26 years. Plans, a lot of times sit on the shelf. Sometimes you look at them and you revise them. It is a plan. We need some direction. If you don't have a plan in place, you can't apply for the grants and different things. The city is doing a comprehensive plan right now. And without that in place, we cannot move forward on certain things. So you got to have something in place. So that's it for me. And
I'll make the
try
motion
come
to
up with
approve.
Motion
Pending
by-
the adjustment to the title with the near-term 2030 goals.
All right, is that, okay, do we have a second? I will second. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. All right, this will go to full city council on Tuesday, so.
In essence, there's 8 more alders. That's happened.
There's 8
All of
more
our
alders.
committees are 4.
Right
So
now,
we
it
send
was
there.
a 2-2 vote, so it's a stalemate on that, but it still goes to city council next
Come to council.
Tuesday. Come
Dress
to
your best.
the council. So, thank you for your input. And enjoy.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Good luck with the rest of the meeting.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to go. You don't have to go. I almost have to go.
We can open the floor.
I'm here to speak on the next
Can we take like a
item.
2-minute break? I gotta hit.
Absolutely.
They'll
Yes,
blend
do you want to
together.
recess? for 5?
Yeah, I think
Recess for 5.
I can't take credit, nope, I just have to do the city.
That's not your name, but I was
So I went to the back side.
Okay. Gonna get back.
Okay.
We're going back. Thanks for remaining. Well, wait a minute, the staff. All right, let's
lost Ryan.
let's move on here.
I gotta get back
Going now
into
to
the-
number 1, which is consideration with possible action or request by the Department of Public Works to make changes to Chapter 32 Solid Waste Ordinance. Director.
Okay,
I gotta get back in here, I don't know
What
I'm
happened?
sorry, keep going, but.
Well, I'm just looking at the agenda.
Operations Manager Pirlet was able to go through after, we had a couple of issues come in, and from residents. And as we went back and took a look at the chapter 32 of our Green Bay Municipal Ordinance, we realized there were some inconsistencies in the ordinance. So we've included a markup of the draft ordinance, draft general ordinance 21-23 in the packet. On page 2 of that draft ordinance, you will see that under recyclable wastes, what we've added is other plastics as allowed by regional recycling. We used to say number 1 and number 2 plastics only. That's been changed to any plastic that the recycling center will take.
Okay.
Can you hit what page some of this is on? 'Cause we
It's
couldn't-
hard because we're.
can't-
Ours is all one
We
long
don't have
attachment.
our-
Yeah, I know, and I
It's
don't,
like, you know.
I had to break mine up because I didn't print the entire.
Well, no, but I.
Sounds like it's just.
Just give me a ballpark where we're going to.
Clean up of modern
It is.
wording.
Let me see if I can get to.
To make changes to the solid waste
Yeah,
ordinance?
the text as originally written dates back to when we started recycling, and it's still very valid. But on page 2 of that, the ordinance text, there's, if you put it on its own text, there's about 5 pages of
Can
ordinance.
somebody
Yeah,
give me the
just a
roughly the
second.
page?
I don't know what is
I
going
know.
on here. I feel like I gotta get out and then back
Somebody
to.
give me the.
It would be page 21 of your packet.
Oh,
Okay. So I think,
Well, we
Director,
start-
if we could do that for each item, just say we're
Sure,
on page
we start
21.
on page 21, so the first edit is actually on page 22. We've added the other regional other plastics as allowed by regional recycling facilities. So that's just a clarification to go from number 1 and number 2 plastics to anything that the recycling facility will take. If we
So
then
this is-
move on to page 23, when we talk about the overflow period.
I'll just click on that.
So we used to say that residential waste placed outside the garbage cart will not be collected. We've clarified that except during periods defined by the city. So that's the periods when we have the overflow weeks. You are allowed to have garbage outside of the cart.
Because originally, when we started the ordinance, we didn't have overflow weeks. So we
Again,
just wanted to make
it's a
sure I have this
cleanup.
clarity issue.
Okay. Go ahead, Alderette.
I'm not sure it has everything to do with this, but, or all to do. How much of our recycling is through Green Bay and how much is through Brown County?
We are merely a
One and the same.
collector. We collect, it all goes to Brown, it all goes to
Okay,
Brown
that's what I
County.
thought.
Brown County then has a
Has a system.
intergovernmental agreement with 2 other counties, so that's why they call it the Tri-County MRF.
Right.
The Bow, Brown, Allegheny,
Okay.
Winnebago.
So that's nothing you oversee?
No.
All right,
We just collect and deliver.
Okay.
I just
So
have some questions.
then if we go to page 29 of your packet, under residential waste, it used to read that residential waste shall be placed in a garbage cart and placed at the curb a minimum of 4 feet from regular recycling waste for collection. What that said was you couldn't put one cart closer than 4 feet to another cart. However, it said nothing about a car, a mailbox, or anything else. So we clarified that and taken out the regular recycling waste and said obstructions such as other tipper carts, trees, signposts, traffic signals, and power poles.
So you need a space.
You need 4
From
feet.
anything,
4
not
feet
just
from-
from another cart.
Yeah, makes sense.
What about when
And
there's a giant
similarly-
pile of leaves there?
What's that?
What about when there's a 3-foot pile of leaves there?
Come on.
We'll do the best we can. Then the next paragraph under recyclable waste, similarly, we added the same language for the recycling cart, not just being 4 feet away from the garbage cart, but from any other obstruction.
Okay.
Some people
well-
put them up right next to like their tree.
Correct, that
And
does
then they don't
happen.
get empty and they're like, why didn't, well, because they couldn't get the arm in there.
Right.
Will
Yeah, 'cause
you,
the arm goes at it like this before it clears.
I mean, like when you go around and you have obstructions like that, do you just leave a note with them?
Tag, it's a non-citation tag, it's a notice.
But you won't pick it up.
Right, if we can't get to it and can't pick it, we don't know.
But if they call us and say that they've moved it, then we do go back and tip it.
And if there's a car parked there, say the neighbors will pull their car out of the driveway sometimes, not thinking, park it in front of the neighbor's can, we automatically drive by in the morning, say, or whatever, oh, it's blocked, write it down. Before I leave the
But you
route, I'm
can't-
gonna go back and check again.
You can't do it manually because of the way it's set up, right? I mean, if the driver would stop, I know it's
You'll get
inefficient,
that.
would go
But
out
it's
and
not,
take the car.
it's not only inefficient,
Safety.
but remember, we invested about between 2.4 and $3.2 million to convert to automated collection. And we had a payback on that, and most of the payback, the return on investment, was through the reduction of work
injuries.
comp claims.
Yes.
The whole idea is to keep that driver in the cab and not have them get out.
Slip,
Okay.
trip, fall.
Yeah, well, that's.
And contrary to popular, maybe popular,
So
but
that's
it's not
dropped almost-
because we're lazy, there was.
Well,
other-
plus there ain't a guy on the back of the truck.
No,
There ain't two guys,
There's one.
right? There was
Yeah,
two
one
guys
person.
always. One driver and one picker-upper.
So on a typical route.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
On a typical route, let's say you got 150, 200 houses, would you have maybe a handful, 5 or 6 that you'd have to do each time?
I couldn't tell you for
Okay.
sure, we'd have to do research.
I think
And a
the
typical route is
callbacks are-
probably
Just a handful?
500,
The
600
callbacks are very
stops.
infrequent.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. All right.
Okay, then if we go to page 30 of the packet, any solid waste when placed out for collection shall be out by 6 AM. We used to require them to be out by 6 AM in the summer, June 1 through August 31, and 7 AM from September 1 through May 31st. That was to accommodate when we went to 10-hour shifts. In order to give our staff the flexibility to have longer periods of time for those summer hours, we simply removed that time restriction of summer and winter hours. You have to have them out by 6 o'clock. No matter.
It's just easier to
You're
deal
right.
with.
Right, and this is actually the driving force for me taking a look at just all the text.
Yeah, the
Is like,
time-
is this current, is this applicable?
This
good?
one strikeout is what caused Chris to go back and take a look at everything else that we just talked
Because
about.
we've had a lot of, just general confusion for many years. People, oh, I forgot it changed, And
So this will
it's a
make it
big
easier.
deal that 1 week when it changes.
Yes.
I know.
Plus, that isn't always the same week if there's extenuating circumstances. So we said, let's just do it the same all year.
Okay. I agree with that. That's good. Okay, anything else on this?
That's it.
That's it?
Move to approve?
Committee?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay,
Good job.
by Weary, seconded by Eck? All-
Uh,
Oh, by
Well,
Campbell.
Campbell
Oh, sorry.
officially. I was starting to, but no
I'm
problem.
sorry. I thought I heard you. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, now I gotta get back to the agenda here. Oh, brother.
Mine is like going on the side.
I know,
there.
it's
You see
still,
that?
it's
That's
gonna, it's
kinda-
gonna take a little
Would it
time.
be- would
I'm
it
going
be-
back and forth.
Would it be easy for your older story if I
Yeah, could
gave
you
you
read them?
the agenda? 'Cause I have a hard copy agenda.
Because I'm gonna.
Oh, that would,
I'm going back and forth.
Yeah, instead
The
of
day
trying
you
to
don't
scroll
print
back
it
and
out
forth
is
and go
when you
on,
get all
just
this.
Take the agenda items, I'd be happy.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich. I'll let, you got a good voice.
Yeah.
Consideration
Look
of
for it
possible
every
action
time.
on
Listen.
request by Department of Public
We'll be
Works
here
to
all night
enter
if
into
you
a
want.
professional services agreement with Robert E. Lee and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $47,900 for landfill monitoring and consulting services. This is an annual contract we have to do the environmental monitoring and any maintenance services that are required on the 3 closed landfills here in the city. Robert E. Lee and Associates has been doing this monitoring on behalf of the city for many years.
Okay, so this,
Make a motion to approve.
okay, by Campbell, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Eck, any other
Steve
discussion?
always says
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. And
Okay,
and
item-
again, Director, when you read it, just say what page we're on.
Well,
You know, when we get
I'm
to-
just following along here.
I'm sorry, I just
Print.
closed that document.
Yeah,
I can reopen it.
well, it is, as I get older, it's tougher.
Are we back at where the plan monitoring?
What I could do is open up 2 files and have one just with the agenda, and one, I could do that, I guess.
Will you- oh. Bring it up on the
Okay,
phone.
so on page 54, item number 3, consideration of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works to enter into a professional services agreement with NES Ecological Services in the amount of $26,800 for native planting services. Okay, so, continued vegetative maintenance is necessary at the Danson Military Avenue landfills. to establish native plantings and protect the landfill cap. So our recommendation is to approve this agreement with NES Ecological.
And this is under, oh, sorry, can I?
Okay, go ahead, Alderman.
This is in your budget, this is all?
Yes,
part of it?
the previous item was in both the 23 and 24 budgets under landfill maintenance. This is under, also under that same, this item would also be part of the budget, the already approved budget, or the approved budget for 24 for landfill maintenance services.
Okay.
Motion
Committee?
to approve?
Okay.
Second.
Approval by X, second by Weary. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay,
Continue on.
moving on to item number 4. This is on page 63 of your packet. Consideration of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works for an exemption from the City of Green Bay ordinance for overnight street parking by YMCA employee Mark Geo.
Okay.
Mr. Geo comes in at 4:30 a.m. several days per week to help open the downtown Y. He has asked for permission to park on Jefferson Street near the doors of the Y so that he doesn't, and he wants to not receive citations for on-street parking between the hours of 3 and 5 a.m.
I also found out recently, Mr. Geo, I don't know exactly what his disability is, but he's mobility impaired. He's not in a wheelchair, but was the primary driving force.
He works
Can I
out.
park by the door so I don't have to?
Due to physical
walk so
mobility
far?
limitations, Mr. Geo would prefer not to park in the ramp and have to navigate the ramp and then also get over there.
And cross the
He would
street to
rather
the sidewalk.
go straight into the wine stores.
What about the bank? You know, I realize it's a private, you know, they don't open until 8, you know, like the bank parking lot. This is downtown.
And we don't know how long
And
he
I
works.
couldn't recommend or approve
Oh,
that. That's
does he
private
work
property.
there? He works at the.
He is an employee of the
Right.
YMCA, correct.
And they're a good they've been a good partner with downtown forever and a day.
Sure.
So
Parking division.
What's
has
your
no
take, Ben?
action.
We are recommending approval, but we're recommending approval that it would be for the remainder of 23 and 24, and there would have to be a continuing demonstration that Mr. Geo is the one who needs that exemption. It wouldn't be a blanket exemption, we're not just gonna give him a parking space.
So
Mr. Geo would have to come back at near the end of 24 and request for
He's
25.
aware of
Similar to any
He's
other,
aware.
yes, and similar to any other similar situation around the city, you know, for parking. I don't have enough room in my driveway and
So
I'm
the-
asking for exemption. Their annual requests.
There's no other place for him to park, you're saying? They don't,
The only other place for him to park would be in the ramp.
oh, okay,
That
so
Light
he
Street ramp?
is,
Overseer control.
So,
motion to approve.
okay, by Heck, do we have a second? Second
Second.
by Campbell. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. All right.
Okay,
Moving ahead.
then we'll move on to item number 5, which is begins on page 69 of your packet. Consideration of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works to enter into a state municipal financial agreement with the Department of Transportation for the following projects. Project 1 is project number 1450-23-00/70 Ray Nitschke Memorial Bridge. Project 9210-24-00/70 State Trunk 54 intersections. The Ray Nitschke Memorial Bridge, if you will remember last year or earlier this year in the governor's budget, dedicated approximately $1.2 million to the repairs of the Ray Nitschke Memorial Bridge. However, when that was placed into the fund it was placed into, we were kind of hoping it would wind up in the Lift Bridge Assistance Program. The state put it into the local bridge program, which may not sound like a big deal. The Lift Bridge Assistance Program is a reimbursement program. So we incur costs, we apply to the state, we get reimbursed. The local bridge program is actually a DOT-managed program, so we have to create a project, we have to go through the DOT design process and everything else. In speaking with the folks here at the region office, they didn't want to be involved in that. That's gonna absorb some of the money that should go into bricks and mortar for that bridge. So, staff here at the local office drafted an SMA, which in essence creates a program identical to the Lift Bridge Reimbursement Program, crafted this SMA to create that, got it approved through central office in Madison, so this gets us all the money. So staff is definitely recommending approval of this so we can start repairs on that bridge. The second project is State Trunk 54 intersections. That would be intersections starting at Hinkle and 54 and ending with Country Club Road and 54. So all the signalized intersections in there. It's a multiple phase safety improvement project. So the first phase of it is this part. And what the DOT is going to do is create what's referred to as an offset left turn bay. So the left turn is actually facing oncoming traffic within that median, so you're looking around the left turners coming the opposite way. You're actually, instead of lined up with each other, you're offset and you can see around them. That's the first phase. The second phase will be, so this is a HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program. There's a companion project that we've applied for funding and we've been told that it looks like we're going to get. That's an SISP, Signal and Intersection Safety Program.
Get all that memorized.
Yeah, it's alphabet soup. They're gonna build the offset lefts. We have to reconfigure the traffic signals to get the heads where they belong. So this is the first phase. We'll come with, probably within the next 3 months or so, we'll probably be bringing another SMFA through it to accept the grant award for the signal projects. And then the third phase of it is something we've been talking about recently. By doing some of these signalization upgrades, that's paving the way, as it were, for us to work collaboratively with Brown County, NWTC, and the Oneida Nation to have pedestrian improvements connecting the Three Sisters neighborhood to the commercial corridor where Walmart and Sam's Club and Festival Foods and all that.
Is there a cost? I'm trying to see the cost on Highway 50. Is there?
The Nitschke Bridge is 100%
okay, the 1.2.
State money. The State Trunk 54 is 4,000. State Trunk 54, total project cost is,
it's not showing in here.
Yeah.
I see a bridge.
Yes, it is.
For
25% of the 10%.
Federal and state money is $1,460,745.50, and the city's cost is $3,622.50. It's below my threshold, but because it's an agreement with the state, I wanted to bring it to you so that.
Right, but I'm just,
So out of $1,464,368, the city is responsible for $3,622.50.
It's really anything, but it should be, it would be nice to be shown that, the number.
Well,
I
it's
don't-
on.
If you go to page 75 of your packet.
Oh.
Well, here we go.
I clicked on the left and it brings me to it, so.
Okay. Well, I know it's out there, it's just, you
Finding my
gotta understand.
way
we're not-
around here.
All right, okay, never mind.
So it is on here.
We're not all
You
born
want to
after
see my screen? Did
1970.
you get it? Did you find it?
If only you knew.
Let's see.
I'll get the
What?
training wheels
Yeah,
off,
she-
yeah.
That was a rip on her, too.
No.
What did you say? I didn't catch it.
She's younger.
We're the
They
same
said
age.
We're born after 1970, he said.
Oh, you weren't
Some of
born
us.
after 70? Okay,
Forget it.
so I have a
Continue.
question. Actually, it's more of a state comment, because you mentioned the crosswalks going across, and we had this big discussion about Country Club Road not going anywhere. You did mention, you had a little, you did say it was coming, so here it is.
Well, and this is the signalization that deals with the cars.
Okay,
Okay.
so it's not anything to do with the crosswalks?
No, we're
Okay.
not, by entering into this, we're not
Understood.
committing to crosswalks, we're not committing to sidewalks, we're not committing to any of the pedestrian. This provides the first leg of the safety improvements for vehicles, then we have the signalization. The signalization will set us up that if the city, the county, the state, and the nation want to continue to pursue pedestrian accommodations, we now have those facilities available.
Okay, okay,
But there's no commitment for anything.
all right. And we haven't heard back on that. I know, we're on it, so I just thought I would ask. I'm sure it's way too soon to hear back from the WisDOT on that.
Correct.
Okay. Move to approve. All right. By Weary.
Second.
Seconded by Eck. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Next.
Okay, starting on page 79, consideration of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works for the 2024 proposed vegetative maintenance at city stormwater ponds and facilities. The city contracts annually with NES Ecological Services and McMahon Associates for terrestrial and aquatic vegetation installation, maintenance, and monitoring services at select city-owned stormwater facilities. The proposals for 2024 include continued maintenance at 16 stormwater facilities, including but not limited to inspections, seeding, invasive and nuisance vegetation removal, herbicide treatments, and prescribed burns as necessary. Staff is recommending approval of this. The NES, the total fiscal impact is $69,150, $12,400 to McMahon Associates, $56,750 to NES. The funding for this comes from the pond maintenance out of the stormwater utilities, so the money is already in the
That's there.
stormwater budget.
Okay, that was my question.
Motion to approve.
Okay, by Eck. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Campbell. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
Okay, now we're gonna have to
Randy's not here, he takes them all.
Do a little bit of pushing.
scrolling because the entire plan, energy plan is in here.
Well, I mean, I could do that too, but I'm just, some nice graphics. Oh, I think I see it. No, I could read one. Unless you want to keep going. I got one. It's on page 106.
230 is our next.
230.
Adopt the clean energy plan. Oh, okay, yeah, now I
Oh.
gotta skip over that one.
Yep, we gotta skip over because we took 7
Oh,
already.
my lord.
Okay.
So
now it's
consideration
the-
of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works to award a contract to MJT Trucking for hauling stockpiled street sweepings to the landfill. When we go out with our street sweepers and do the street sweeping across the city, we stockpile that material out at the west side yard waste facility until we get a big enough pile. At that point, we have to do some testing, and it has to be landfill because it is a solid waste. We have enough material accumulated out there that it's now time to do a hauling contract down to the Outagamie, or Brown County Salt landfill now.
How often does that happen?
Every 2 to 3 years.
Every 2 to 3 years?
2 to 3 years.
Oh,
How big
okay.
is that pile?
A couple hundred yards.
Yeah, it's thousands,
100 yards.
2,300,
Well, regardless, it's big.
thousands of cubic yards.
Okay.
Anybody ever
More you want than you want to put in your
dig
pickup
through it
truck.
and see if there's any jewelry or rings or money or?
There could be a
Might
lot.
take-
There probably is.
Take you a
Do we
while.
have any mind?
I lost my ring in a bell and rung once, so landed on some
We
street
got
on the
it.
east side.
6,600 tons, so it's probably in the neighborhood of 3,000 yards.
Yeah.
Running the bell and.
Mine's in Lake
A
Michigan.
metal detector.
A metal detector.
Yeah.
Do we have any in the city, metal detectors?
Probably.
All right, so what, Director, you're,
Our recommendation is to award to MJT Trucking in the amount of $59,334.
okay, so this is every 3 years, so how, when they do that, how many trips?
Probably, I think the last
Just ballpark.
time it was 300 and some truckloads.
Oh,
Wow.
Motion to approve.
yes, motion
Second.
by X, seconded by Weary. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, that passes unanimously. I'm gonna be dreaming about that, 300 trips.
Yeah, you don't realize how much gets picked up in a year.
Well,
off of our
like when you
streets.
sweep,
Yeah.
you know, to me, it always
Sucks
seems
it
like.
up. It sucks it up,
I
right?
guess it does, but
Yeah.
it's just like, wow.
Otherwise, all you do is blowing it into people's yards. That wouldn't, you
Taken
know,
to the east side.
it's like a big vacuum sweeper, right?
Okay,
All right.
all right, next,
Okay,
Just
page
ask me.
238.
238.
Consideration of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works to award the professional engineering services contract for stormwater restorations at Baird Creek, Burgundy Court, and Twin Pines Court to Rupert Milkie Incorporated in the amount of $64,761. These are two stormwater projects that Alder Hutchison had requested ARPA funding for.
It's the kingdom.
So we have contracted, we went out and solicited professional engineering services contracts. The staff has reviewed the proposals we got back. 3 proposals were received. Staff scored them, and Rupert Milkie came out with the best score. So staff is recommending award of this, and again, the funding comes out of the ARPA fund or ARPA award that was provided for this project.
I do remember that request. Yeah, that was quite the deal. And you've been out there a few times, right, to see it? So,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Eck. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm gonna draw.
Second by Campbell. All in favor,
Might not
please say
be
aye.
right, 'cause I'm-
Aye. All opposed?
What's wrong with
I
it?
know
Just
we're getting
figure
punchy,
maybe
but
it
Supposed to be a
let's,
number 2.
let's be professional. All right. That
Okay,
includes me
next
too.
one begins on page 267. Consideration of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works to adopt the proposed 2024 stormwater utility rates. This we have to do every year after the budget goes through, so beginning on page 268, what you will find is a summary of the budget that you passed.
In 45 minutes.
Yes, 45 minutes. So taking that budget and dividing by 80,000 equivalent runoff units across the city gives us an ERU charge of $136.46 per year, or $11.37 per month. Comparison, page 269 provides a comparison beginning in 2015 through 2024's budget, and you will see that the ERU charge went from $134.53 to $136.46 a year, or $11.21 a month to $11.37. Much like the levy-supported budget, most of the cost increase there was due to the pay plan adjustments and the resulting cost of salaries. So staff recommends adoption of the utility rates for 2024 of $136.46 per ERU per year, or $11.37 per ERU per month.
Is it just, it's only up $2 roughly from the year before?
No, it's only up 16 cents per
Went
ERU.
from
Oh, yeah.
21 to 11.
$2 per year, 16 cents per
okay.
month.
I was, okay, sorry.
Do you have the chart?
Yeah, I just looked at it.
Oh.
I was looking at the per year one.
Yeah.
Yeah, $2 per year.
Yeah. All right, committee?
I'll make a motion to adopt the
Okay.
east side recommendation. Was that east side? Just throwing that
By
out.
Campbell, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Eck. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Although we have a lot of items on the agenda, I think what you're finding is the vast majority of them are relatively procedural.
I know,
Yeah.
I wanted to make everybody
Next-
feel happy out there.
Next one is 207, starts on page
As they do.
271.
can make it last a
Consideration
lot.
of possible
Except for
action on a request by Department of Public Works to purchase our yearly structure cast iron castings from Nina Foundry in the amount of $51,240 for the sewer section. So every year we get to the end of the year and we buy replacement castings for everything that we used out of inventory. And I know somebody did ask me about, do you go anywhere but Nina Foundry? And the answer is not really. We have looked at other foundries, but when you're dealing with castings, I think the nearest foundry that handles this type of casting and this volume beyond Nina would be East Jordan Iron Works in East Jordan, Illinois.
Okay.
When you start trucking those castings, you're talking, you wind up paying more in freight than you do for the casting.
I think we
So-
talked about this last year.
Yeah.
It sounds familiar,
And I
yes.
think I asked, is Deep Pier Foundry still there? And I think you said no. Or are
They
still around?
didn't do
They
this
didn't do
kind
this?
of, or volume of casting work.
Oh, that's-
Not sewer
So
castings. They did other casting, I don't believe they're in business.
I've always seen Nina everywhere I go.
Yep.
Everywhere. So,
Move to approve.
Second.
Marie, seconded by
Change
Eck.
it
All in
up.
favor, please say aye.
Yeah. Rat problem.
Aye.
Isn't that where the rats go, sewers?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Have them cast in there, no
We'll
rats.
talk about that later.
Stay on.
Okay,
the-
next
All right,
one
next.
begins
West
on
side.
page
Let's
275.
get through this thing.
Consideration with possible action on a request by Department of Public Works to authorize the purchase of equipment to complete upgrades to the stormwater lift station located at Main Street and North Irwin Avenue. There are electrical upgrades that are necessary at this lift station to allow it to run efficiently and reliably. In the near future, it's supposed to happen next year, but it's actually going to be in '25 now. We are looking at some improvements on North Irwin. At St. Clair, we delayed that 1 year because Green Bay Metropolitan Sewage District, New Water, is going to be doing an interceptor upgrade next year. So we want to come after that. We don't want to put a brand new road in and then have somebody come and put a sewer underneath it.
Yeah.
So we're doing some upgrades to the stormwater lift station in anticipation of the rest of the work that's being done out there. We're looking at a new control panel from PJ Cartons and Company for $29,900 and electrical components from Viking Electric in the amount of $50,850. Total expenditure $79,250, and these funds are budgeted for in the stormwater utility budget out of the pump station repair fund.
Great.
Make a motion to keep the east side flowing really good.
Add that all in there, right?
Well, you can throw that in if you want. Okay, Campbell, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Eck. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Keep these.
Okay, next one begins on page 285. Consideration of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works for the extension of the lease with Brown County for the west side yard waste center property.
We're not kicking us out?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh, really? There's a
Nope.
chance?
So as long as they continue to allow us to occupy, we would rather stay where we're at.
Do we,
It's like a yearly.
do we still have issues there with folks coming in
The same
from outside of Green
Yes.
Bay? And we can't, it's hard to control, right?
Well,
Oh,
we're doing what we
Are you
can.
gonna go there again?
What we can.
You don't want to go there right now.
He wants to go there again.
Maybe that's
Yeah, we
where the
got
rats
time.
come from.
All right,
Well, you're-
let's stick to
The
this.
guy who shuts the gates was very, very professional. I thought it was always till dusk. So I show up and
Oh.
it's not quite dark yet. I'm like, oh, he's like, no, it's till whatever time.
8 or whatever.
He was very nice. Like, nope, can't let you.
I motion.
I thought it was always till
Motion by Eck.
Yeah, okay.
Yes?
Sorry about that.
No.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Eck. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Weary. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That passes unanimously. All right,
Next two items are related.
good.
First one begins on page 302. Consideration with possible action on a request by Green Viper LLC to dedicate to the city the pavement and underground utilities for the Woods subdivision once all required documents are received from the developer. So this is the development that's on the west side of the creek going through the golf course that we had to get the easements for. Site is at substantial completion. They've got a couple of punch list items that they need to handle. We're fine with that. We would like to accept dedication so that homes can be built, occupancy certificates can be granted, and we can start plowing the road. Otherwise, we can't go in there and plow and keep those roads maintained.
Make motion approved.
Okay, by Campbell, do we have a second? Second by Weary. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? That passes.
Okay, the next item begins on page 304, and again, it's related. Consideration of possible action on a request by Green Viper LLC to dedicate to the city the stormwater facility located on Outlot 1 of the Woods at Bear Creek subdivision, once all required documents are received from the developer. So the stormwater facility servicing that, as Alder Weary is aware, we had, there was, in your district, there was a subdivision from the 90s.
Oh,
where-
yes. Hannah?
Yes.
Hannah.
And
Yeah.
the stormwater
That's
facility
my daughter's
was
name.
left in private hands, and it wound up not being maintained. Yeah, it doesn't work. So what we prefer is, when a developer's doing a subdivision, get the stormwater management device up to operating, once we're happy with how it's operating, that's been properly planned, it's functioning correctly, then dedicate it over to us and we'll take it over from that point. So that's what they're doing here. They've got the pond built, it's it's operating correctly, it's everywhere we want it to be. There's some documentation, cost of construction, some minor things. It doesn't affect the operation of the pond. So once we get those, we'd like accepted that, they want to dedicate it to us, we want to accept that dedication contingent on them giving us the information we need.
I haven't had complaints in a couple of years, so I don't know if it just kind of.
I think it just fell by the wayside.
Okay. We'll talk about that later.
Make motion approved.
Motion by Campbell, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Weary. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, next one begins on
306.
page 306. This one is kind of fun. Consideration with possible action on the transfer of a retired DPW dump truck with plow to Chad Roffers Trucking Incorporated in exchange for 5 months of rental usage of a loader for the winter of 2023-2024.
Sounds like a baseball transaction.
So we retired a loader this year. That loader that was, the loader replaced was sold through auction to Mr. Roffers. So we sold him a loader. We annually seek rental loaders for plow duty from November through April. We have had trouble finding loaders from vendors for this winter. Mr. Roffers has agreed to rent us the loader that he recently purchased from us, so we know the loader, it was ours, okay? We're comfortable using that thing for snow plowing. At a rate of $4,000 per month. That's lower than the rental rate that we have with other contractors. It's a known quantity, it was recently one of our vehicles, we believe this is a very good exchange. As payment for the rental of the loader, Roffers Trucking has asked to take ownership of a recently retired 2007 Sterling dump truck with front and wing plows for $20,000. The truck has a corroded frame and has no salvage value to DPW for repair or restoration. So for us, it's essentially a junk vehicle. He's willing to take that for an estimated value to him of $20,000 in exchange for giving us 5 months rental on that loader.
It's a wash.
So it's,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
We get the truck, we get
Motion
to use the
to
loader.
approve.
Motion by Eck. Do we have a second?
Our legal department,
Second.
Second by Campbell. All in favor, please say aye.
And that should be something, like, I would assume that that would be the case, so.
Yeah.
Because he said the legal department said it was
yeah,
okay.
they
but-
vetted it out.
Yes, we have run this through law department already.
Have you done this before? I don't
No, this is a rather unique approach, but Nathan Walkendock, our fleet manager, has become a world-class scrounge.
Did you say
If
scrounge?
you've ever, yes,
Okay.
if you've ever seen
He said it.
the movie Operation Petticoat,
Yeah,
the pink submarine,
oh,
he
would do that.
He puts Tony Curtis to shame being a scrounger. I mean, the guy has an unconventional approach, and he is saving money to the city hand over fist. He just,
Can we put that in a resolution or something?
we may have to at some point.
That's scrounger.
So we go on to page 307. Report the award of contract sewers 3-23 sanitary sewer East River Crossing at Grove Street to PTS contractors in the amount of $1,186,000. This was a contract that we had asked for the ability to award at a staff level so we could get it going. You probably will remember us talking about the siphon under the East River at Grove Street. This is replacing that siphon with a gravity sewer. This was in our capital improvement program and came in significantly under budget. So because you had already authorized us to award this contract, beginning on page 308, you will see the letter notifying the contractor that he has been awarded the contract and getting the contract process moving forward. Again, contract value is $1,186,000. So that process is already underway and we are reporting that out. We had 3 bidders on the contract and this was the low responsible bidder.
So would we just accept this report or receive and place on file?
Receive and place on file.
Okay.
motion to receive and place on file.
Motion by Eck, seconded by Campbell. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to page 311. Consideration of possible action on a request by Department of Public Works to award the contract Parks 12-23 Finger Road Concession Utilities contract at a staff level and report the award at the next Improvement Service Committee meeting. Yes, Alder is chuckling. This contract has been a long time, over 8 years in coming. This is to put the concession stands and bathrooms at the Finger Road Ball Diamonds. The East River Optimist Group has been patiently waiting.
Patiently.
We've got the contract complete, it's on the street, but by the time we receive bids, we will be in our Christmas break. So we would have to wait until the third week in January. We'd rather just get it awarded and get a contractor under contract.
Because they've been patient.
Get it out there for
Motion
next year's
to
baseball.
approve. I remember them coming in and
Yeah,
telling
oh,
us
yeah.
all about this,
Okay,
yeah.
Motion by Eck, do we have a
So you
second?
said,
Second.
Second by
There you go,
Campbell.
got it back.
Any other discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously.
Okay, next one is on page 312, consideration possible action to approve and accept staff recommendation of the quote for appraisal services for the acquisition of rights-of-way required for the Country Club Road from West Mason Street, frontage road to Indian Hill Drive. So staff has put out a request for proposals to various appraisal firms to help us with getting appraisals for any right-of-way or limited interest that we have as part of that Country Club Road project. Those have a time sensitivity. The quotes that we are receiving back from the appraisal firms have a time sensitivity to them. So what we're asking is for staff to be able to award that appraisal services. Any of these appraisals are paid for out of the construction project funding. So this is only to do the appraisals, make price offerings to the people who need
That's
them. It's
normal.
not necessarily the acquisition of the right-of-way. This is to hire the appraiser.
So it's standard operating
And
procedure.
yes, and we are anticipating total expenditure under this contract to be between $40,000 and $50,000.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Eck, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Keegan.
Chris.
We'll give
You're the arbiter.
You're
the
Jesse.
arbiter. I'll give it to Campbell. Any other discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that passes.
Next item begins on page 318 of the packet. Consideration with possible action to approve and accept the additional rights-of-way required for Ricky Drive at Vine Street. This would be part of parcel 21-1361-3. We are picking up in fee simple
$10.
$10.
for $10.
All of this for $10?
Yep, this is right-of-way that we need that's associated with the Habitat Homestead project.
Motion to approve.
I think I
You
get
just
10.
bought $11. You own it.
You got change for a 20? All right, all in, Eck?
Oh.
Second.
Seconded by Weary, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, that passes unanimously.
You were gonna pay for it personally?
Yeah, well, I almost,
He's gonna give you $10
It's
to pay for it.
approved.
Then we'd have to amend it.
Beginning on page 324, report of actions taken by the Department of Public Works, granting of licenses, sidewalk builder to Absolute Concrete LLC.
Motion to approve.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I
absolutely.
think we're getting a little loopy here.
Loopy.
Absolutely,
By
for
Eck,
absolute.
seconded. Is that a second?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
he absolutely
By
did.
Campbell, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you so much.
And something enthusiastic.
Then
We're
we
down to
have
it.
informational,
Yes.
Director's report on recent activities in the Public Works Department. I only have 3 things for you very briefly tonight. One is leaf collection is wrapping up. We are picking up those random piles around the
Today.
city that we did not get.
Did they
to.
get your leaves today?
Yes. Thank you.
Along with that, with the snow that we had over the weekend, we actually did have to call folks in on overtime to get vehicles converted so that we could get out and do the primaries, because the same trucks that we use to collect leaves are the ones we use to plow with. So there was a lot
What-
of thrashing by staff last
How many
weekend.
inches did we have last week? Snow? 2?
It wasn't quite 2.
It was around, yeah, it was around 2, but of course, as the pavement temperature was higher, so you
So
didn't
some of
see
the
2 on the
pavement melted,
pavement.
so we really.
But on top of our
All right,
cars, you
just
had
checking.
about 2. yes.
You're out there burning around.
With that in mind, the fleet conversions currently sits at about 75%. So we're holding out hope that we get another good week before we get a snowfall, so we can get the rest of everything
And you
converted
need
and checked.
100%, right?
And,
Right.
a crosswalk painted. In my district. Just put it out there.
And then
I talked to Chris, he
everything
knows.
but Burner Street reconstruction and Brozing Street resurfacing appears to got paved out already. And the contractor, because it's MCC, they are holding their plant open and keeping an eye on the weather. If we get a uptick in warm weather, they're actually still hoping to get they've got the bottom layer down, they're hoping to get the second layer to be completely done. But
Saw the
worst case, it
first
looks
one
like we
down.
may have 2 streets that may or may not yet final out.
2 weeks.
And if I could add one more, it's more of a fun fact, but it is, you know,
Oh, fun fact here.
just FYI. I got a contact from Hy-Vee Management yesterday, and the lady said, we'd like to bring a bunch, unknown to me, yesterday was National Snowplow Operator Day.
Yeah, National Snowplow Appreciation Day.
Appreciation Day. I did not know that. I know that
Really?
now.
Now you
She
do
said, we want to bring donuts to Green Bay DPW, De Pere DPW, and Ashwaubenon DPW. How many do you want? So
Oh, boy.
tomorrow.
Oh, for
Tomorrow, our
tomorrow?
snowplow operators and others will be appreciated.
So they'll be handing
Nice.
them,
How
they'll
many
be
did you tell
handing them out along the road?
He said all
I
of
left that
them.
up to Josh. It's probably
how many you have?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And our
Nice.
next Improvement Services
Yes.
Committee meeting is scheduled for December 13th of 2023. We have no public hearing, so we would need
Motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Punch me out.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We could have made it 4 hours.
Yeah, reconsider the sustainability plan.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Let's talk one of these.
Are we offline?